Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 126 of the Sonic Talk podcast. I am your host, Knuckles87, and with me today are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Say hello.
Uh, wait a minute. Which one of us is Tweedledum?
I don't know. I'm not incriminating myself. I don't know who he's referring to. I'm GX. Hi.
I'm Shig. Hello, the world is going to hell, but let's complain about the way Shrek looks.
I'll let the audience decide which is which.
I'll let the audience decide how Shrek looks. I don't care.
No, we're not letting the audience decide how Shrek looks because the audience has crappy taste. I'm tired of people complaining about every single goddamn thing just because it doesn't look like a model made in 2005.
Look,
CG has moved on, people. Okay, anyway.
Look, somebody once told me that the world was going to roll me. Now, I might not be the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not continuing this. Move on.
But are you the dullest tool in the shed?
No.
Okay, good. Then you're good. You're smarter than the president. Anyway, so moving on to we got a lot to discuss, mostly Sonic Racing CrossWorlds.
So hey, I'm GX. That's Knuckles87, and that's Shigs.
All right. Wait, I introduced myself, and then you guys introduced yourselves. What are you doing?
I'm reintroducing myself because you didn't introduce us properly.
Oh, you introduced yourselves. It's fine. Anyway. So, but before we move on to the proper news, we are going to be talking about what we have been playing recently, and I will be starting off because I have been playing much more than I usually do over the past month. I have been on a major retro gaming kick for over a month now, and there's lots of reasons for that I might get into next time. Because the main cause at the moment is kind of gets spun off from that, and now it's like its own thing. So but yeah, I've been playing. I played loads of NSO recently, like Ninja Gaiden and stuff. But for me, the central way I've been spending my gaming free time has been through flashcards and disk emulators. Specifically, the Mega EverDrive Pro, which I finally have operational in a way that I find satisfactory. My Dreamcast GDMU, which okay, I'm gonna have to deal with that, whatever that is. Be right back.
Cool.
He also has a Sega Saturn Saru, thing, which I also have.
So considering,
I believe I talked about.
So this is a fascinating way to have the episode progress. Shigs, why don't you tell us a bit about Yakuza and when?
Okay, that was annoying.
Never mind.
Anyway,
okay.
My GDMU, which has been giving me issues lately, but seems to be working better for some reason. I don't know. I might need a new one. And finally, my Sega Saturn's Saru flashcards, which has been stuck in customs for the past 2.5 weeks because I don't know if you may have been paying attention to all of the tariff nonsense that has been happening lately, where Donald Trump keeps threatening tariffs. He's going to do tariffs, and then he signs and passes the China tariffs, and we've done China tariffs before. It's not great for trade, but it's not the worst deal, with one exception. All of his tariff nonsense is now also focused on killing something called de minimis, the de minimis exemption, which is the thing that lets you buy things from AliExpress and other such places that are less reputable than that. also lets like your grandma from Canada or whatever send stuff for you without anyone having to pay the government extra fees. And so he killed the de minimis exemption for China for 3 days until, like, they finally realized, oh, wait a moment, we don't have the infrastructure to tariff the millions of packages coming in from China.
I believe we don't have the infrastructure to implement these changes has been the entire story of the past 5 weeks.
Yes. And so for like 3 whole days, these packages basically just all piled up because they didn't have the manpower to do anything. And my package came right in the middle of that. And so they basically spent the last 2.5 weeks just going through everything, processing everything, and finally it arrived on the 6th. It shipped out of there on like the 25th. I think. And so, like, yeah, I've been waiting like most of the month for this thing to arrive. Like, I meant to complain about this during the last episode, but I guess forgot. Anyway,
a similar problem with the Amazon package, which just said, "Oh, if it doesn't arrive at this particular time, you can return. You can ask for a refund." The problem is, it wants me to do a return to ask for a refund, and I do not have the thing physically in hand. So how can I possibly do a return?
Anyway, it turns out when you have a purposefully incompetent government, they can ruin your lives in big ways and small annoying ways. So just keep that in mind, people. Anyway, moving on to the actual games. Mega EverDrive Pro. I finally repaired a Sega Genesis 2 with some thread and some tape to keep its power button in place so that I can turn it on and off properly. And this let me finally access my Mega EverDrive Pro's Sega CD disc emulation. And I've been playing. I've been messing around with that a lot over the last couple of weeks. But the big game that I played, and I've really been enjoying. It's been on my list for a very long time. Has been Popful Mail, which some of you Sonic fans may know, almost became Sister Sonic once upon a time.
I'm frequently reminded of that every time it comes up as a topic that, oh yeah, did you know it was yes, I do know that. I am keenly aware that it is not specifically that, but was for a time it was going to be adapted as such. I get it. I understand. It's like the Scott Pilgrim moment of like, did you know his name was Puck? It's like, yes, I do know his name was Puckman. You can stop reminding me.
And what's kind of cool about that was that, for one, like, this is supposed to be like Sonic's sexy, like, female relative or something, and like this was going to be a change implemented not just in the West, but just like the game period. This was going to be how Popful Mail would be on Sega CD. Part of me kind of wished it had happened, but the rest of me is happy that it didn't, because Popful Mail is a very charming,
imagine the DeviantArts
action game. Like, it would very least would be a lot more popular, and it would probably be getting like more consistent re-releases had it happened. But regardless, like, so Popful Mail, like, it's got it's a working designs joint, which means that it's got a decent script, it's got decent voice acting. Honestly, like, in the context of the early '90s for a Japanese localization, it's actually pretty good, I think. But like, it's all decent. I think it holds up decently by modern standards. Like, it's got some decent jokes. It makes me chuckle. Popful Mail herself, who, by the way, introduces herself just like Sonic used to. I'm male, Popful Mail. Well, okay, not just like Sonic, but anyway, it was similar. But anyway, so like, she's a very kind of funny, charming character who, like, is always, she's kind of like a roguish Han Solo type, in that she's always she always needs to have her morals greased with some cash. And that has been a constant theme throughout the early part of this adventure. Um, but it's an RPG, but it's also an action game. It's kind of like Metroidvania-esque in the sense that you do have to explore these maps, and you have to find keys and stuff. There's still like special abilities that you unlock over time. It's in terms of like the action, it's a pretty basic like action platformer. But like as far as like retro action RPGs go, it is definitely one I would recommend. Um, I I am through like the early hours so far, like the first I guess the first 3 or 4 hours. So I don't have too much to say on the story aside from the fact that it is very goofy. Like there's like this man, what is the name of the big bad guy? Uh Dang it.
Dr. McBigbad.
No, no.
Evil
It's
McDarkpants.
it's something really stupid.
Bodie
Puffle
McBoatface.
male villain. Okay. Okay, apparently the actual villain is Ulgor the Overlord. um but like there's this evil wizard with this really stupid name. Um I don't know, it's a goofy game. I do recommend checking it out. I don't have too much more to say about it outside of that at the moment. In addition to that, I've also been playing this Master System game called Psycho Fox, which is a game that has interested me for a very long time because my first exposure to it was like through a Sega music video where it made the game look very fast. I was wondering like that looks kind of like Sonic. And it is indeed a platformer that gives you that encourages you to run fast, but still does kind of have the gameplay that you would expect of an 8-bit Mario-esque platformer, in the sense that it's a one hit and you die thing unless you have a power up, which in this case is like this little crow that you can like throw at enemies and you can like hit them with it and then it'll eventually come back to you. And but and it's also got it's also the level design is like multi-tiered where there's an upper path and a lower path, with the upper path typically like having more rewards and stuff, but also having much more difficult platforming. And it is a pretty fun 8-bit platformer in my view. Like apparently, it actually got pretty solid reviews back in the day. The central mechanic is that you are a fox who can transform into three other animals who have different attributes. And so, like, you have a hippo who is very slow and can't jump very high, but can break specific rocks. You've got a tiger that is much faster. You got a monkey, and you got a monkey who can jump a lot higher. And I do tend to favor the monkey because he's got a decent amount of speed while also having a much better jump. And this is a game that I do see myself finishing, in part because, as difficult as it is, it's got unlimited continues, and also my Mega Everdrive Pro has save stakes, so that like I can just save scum my way to victory in this game, which I do plan on doing at some point. But it definitely like feels a bit more complex than your typical 8-bit platformer from the time. I like it's not an outright. It's not like Wonder Boy 3 where it's like an action RPG or something.
It
But like
looks very I'm trying to think of what it looks like to me, but it feels very reminiscent of either an Alex Kidd or like a Decap Attack. Like those are the
yeah,
vibes that it's giving me.
I mean it's at least better than Alex Kidd 1. I will say that. um, the only real issue I have with it.
Oh, this is extremely Decap Attack.
The only issue I really have with it is that the jump is a little awkward. in that you don't if you just try to like jump from standing still, you don't get a lot of forward momentum. You have to like be moving at least a little bit before you jump in order to really get a proper jumping arc. And so like that did take me some getting used to, but once I figured that into how I move, I had a much easier time with it. And like it's definitely one of the I definitely see why people tend to consider it one of the Master System's classics,
I'm
even if it doesn't get as much attention as the
I
Sonics
am
Alex
on
did.
the Wikipedia right now, and this game is listed as having Decap Attack as its spiritual successor. So yes,
Huh.
my statement of this gives me strong Decap Attack vibes is accurate according to Wikipedia.
Did Vic Tokai make Decap Attack?
Yes, Vic Tokai did make Decap Attack, or rather, its actual Japanese origin, Magical Hat no Butobi Teibo Daibuken.
Well, I was not aware of any of that. That's pretty neat. I should probably give Decap Attack another shot. It didn't really grab me the last time I tried it. Anyway, so moving on to the GDMU, I have of course also been playing a lot of stuff on that, but the main thing I want to focus on is Grand Theft Auto 3 on the Dreamcast, which for me is a bit of a dream come true as a a Dreamcast fanboy from back in the day. Because it's like, for me, one of my questions has always been, can the Dreamcast run this game? Because it feels like it should be able to run this game. Its models are pretty low poly. It's got a pretty large map, but like, is it really that much larger than what's the than Omicron Nomad Soul or Crazy Taxi 2? Like, I don't know. Like, felt deep in my bones that it could probably have been made to run on the Dreamcast. And now, lo and behold, yes. The Grand Theft Auto decompilation has been ported to the Dreamcast. Um, the work on it actually began like back in July of 2024, and it's currently in an alpha state, so it's fully playable from beginning to end, but does have some glitches, and it's also still unstable and hasn't been properly what's the word um uh made to run well. Like, the frame rate is pretty janky.
Optimized. The
It
word you're looking for is
optimized.
optimized.
Thank you. The frame rate can be pretty janky. Like, by and large, it manages to stay in a pretty playable state of like 18 to 25 frames per second. Um, there are a couple of things that can really cause it to freeze up, like hitting the chain link fence that causes it to causes the chain link fence to collapse, because this is not the PS2 version with all of its optimizations. This is the PC version with the higher polygon buildings and cars and all of the stuff, and all of like the effects and stuff from that build of the game. And so like they've had to do more like there are certain things that this version of the game does better than the PS2, but like overall it's still a much less smooth experience. But like, just playing it, I must have spent like, I don't know, 6 hours in it over the last couple of weeks, and it still plays very well on the Dreamcast. Like, it feels really good to play. The cars feel great. Dragon feels great. And it's just weird having this kind of more modern relative game. Like like this game is full of so many things that the Dreamcast just barely missed the boat on in terms of like features and such. And so it is just really strange experiencing it within the context of the Dreamcast. Um, I don't expect this is something that anyone outside of other Dreamcast fans are going to be that interested in checking out. But like,
No,
if you're a
this is
Dreamcast fan,
like this is very specifically. Hey, do you care about Dreamcast as a piece of hardware? Like
yes,
that's
and
what
I
that's the point
do.
you have to be very interested in.
I do very much so. And I'm really excited for the future of this whole project because they're doing Vice City now. They've got a pre-alpha build of Vice City running on the damn thing, and Vice City is like the Grand Theft Auto game I really want. I really want to play on there. Like it's got my preferred location and everything, so I'm just really looking forward to it. Um. So anyway, so yeah. Uh, unless anyone has any questions on that,
No,
I'm gonna.
Not especially, no.
Okay, I'm gonna move on
I mean
to.
it's what the big Grand Theft Auto game that everyone's been waiting for right now.
I mean, for me, I don't care about sex. Is that on the Dreamcast?
Yes, it is. Sure, why not?
Ooh. Anyway, the Saru. So I went through my whole saga with that. Um, but while I've been waiting for it the last couple of weeks, I have been like slowly downloading games for it, especially like whenever I'm at my parents, they don't have a bandwidth cap. So like I download to my heart's content while I'm there. Um, and so like I gradually accrued like 80 gigs worth of games to stick on the thing, and I've been like checking out an emulator and stuff.
Eight
But
gigs worth of official backups, I'm assuming, of things that you own.
if you wanna pretend that, sure, we'll pretend that, sure. Yeah, all this stuff I bought legitimately over the course between 1994 and 1994 and 2000. So anyway,
Either that or you have deleted it within one day, as the internet is inclined to believe.
well, look, these games are like super overpriced now, so I don't feel a twinge of guilt. Anyway, but yesterday I went through the process of getting all that stuff off my phone onto my iPad, then from my iPad to the SD card. Um, and now it's all on the Saru, and my God, does it work beautifully. Like, I am surprised how user-friendly this damn thing is. Like, the
Seriously,
GDMU has like this whole program that you have to run in order to get the games to like install on there. But this, no, you just drag and drop and it's just there, and you like there's like disc art for like 99% of the library. It's really impressive. Were you gonna say something, GX? Shakes?
no, I just said I was agreeing with you.
Ah, yeah, yeah. And so like I've been like jumping across the library, spending a couple minutes in all the games. Like so far, I haven't encountered too many issues. Sometimes something will not boot the first time. Earlier today, Sonic R, the music wasn't playing. I had to take the cartridge art out and back in. I think it's just the Sega Saturn has like a notoriously bad cartridge slot. Like the pins in it aren't great, and so like that was like kind of my one reason that I hesitated with this thing was because I wasn't sure if I could get it to work. But thankfully, everything does seem to be working pretty well for the most part, and everything looks fast. Um, and as near as I can tell, compatibility is really good. Like I've played some Baku Baku, I played some Sonic 3D Blast, I played some Astra Superstars, which is this excellent 2D fighter where the characters float around. I'm gonna be talking a lot more about that next time. Final Fight for Revenge, which is like the last Sega Saturn game ever made, March 2000. Just man, I'm really looking forward to diving into this thing. Thank you, Shigs, for like buying this yourself and convincing me to get it.
Yeah, the load times are just insane. They are like almost instant, if not like just a second or two for most games.
Oh, and I also played the NetLink editions of both Sega Rally and Daytona USA for, for no reason at all.
Who did you connect to?
Oh, nothing. You like you can't I can't actually play those games online through the cart because like that's where the net link
Yeah,
has
that's
to
where you
go
had
through.
connected to. Is like, what? Wait, you played the Netflix version? Why? Why did you
But the
Netflix
important
version?
thing is that this is all. These are also like just generally improved versions, especially Daytona USA. Like it's
Okay.
also the circuit. For Daytona USA, it's also like the circuit edition, which is more content, much better graphics and optimization. Like really, like a really good version of the game. And I'm actually getting really good at Daytona USA on Saturn finally. But anyway, so yeah, really love this thing, and I cannot wait to play more of it. Who's up next?
Okay, I guess that'll be me. I'll start off with Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and that title alone got sold me on the game. I mean, if you've been paying attention to the Yakuza series, they have been mostly like these heavy drama games with a bit of silliness in some of the missions and stuff. And that's what was going on for about six of the sequels. And then Like a Dragon came along and they started getting a bit sillier and sillier with the character of Ichiban and his journey. While they still have some bit of a serious story going on, but it's mostly tongue in cheek and
I
that.
mean, like
And
this is a game where the pirate ships can drift. So
yeah, so but then it comes to this one,
How does the
and
pirate
they
ship?
don't.
How does the pirate shift? How does the pirate ship drift compare to that in CrossWorlds? Which one has better drift?
I think this one might. I'm not sure. But yeah, this one gets the silliest out of them all. It's just so ridiculous. The premise and everything. I mean, your girl Majima, the psychotic best friend of the main Yakuza series character Kizu Kazuma, and he washed up on a beach with amnesia, doesn't know who he is and everything, and he befriends this boy. This boy gets attacked by pirates. He starts fighting them, helping out his dad. That eventually he beats up enough pirates that he ends up getting his own pirate ship and becoming the captain of his own crew, and then setting out on adventures from there. It is, and I can't tell you about the opening credits. It happens about 2 hours into the game because it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. This one just does not take any reality in it. I mean, you're in modern day Honolulu, and yet there's still pirates sailing the open seas, and their pirate garb still there. I will say if you're coming right off of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, you might be a little disappointed because this is using a lot of those same assets from
Oh,
that
all
game.
these games do.
It
Like,
is a direct sequel. If you play this one before that one, you'll be completely spoiled on the ending. You will meet pretty much all of the characters that Ichiban met in Hawaii in this one. So there's a lot of that. If you haven't started the the other one, Infinite Wealth, I think I'd recommend this one over that one just because of how ridiculous it is.
I want this one for like the Master System and arcade games, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's the other thing. At first you start off on this called Rich Island, but that's just the last name. Which it's funny because my middle name's Richard, so I hear Jason Rich, and it reminds me of when my mom would get upset with me and say Jason Richard, you know. But you get a little hut with a master system with 4 games, and then once you get to Honolulu, you can go by different pawn shops and not only collect games, but you can collect tracks from different video games, Sega video game
my
soundtracks that you
understanding is that they
have in a
have
little
actually
CD player.
included Angry Birds at this point.
I haven't heard
Really?
that yet,
Yes.
but I mean, you could sell this Open Seas and put on like the theme from Rhythm Thief or Nights Dreams while you're
Ooh,
sailing because you got your little CD player. But what's
be
interesting about
blasting dreams while I'm sailing the open seas, pillaging
I'm
things.
I'm still looking for 4 other Master System games, but they're not all Master System games. So far, there are 2 SG-1000 games, including Flicky. And
Ooh,
anybody
wait.
doesn't know what SG-1000 is, that is the system before the Master System. That was Sega's first console, which ran on basically the exact same hardware as a ColecoVision. And so that's kind of interesting. Also, this is really cool. They have so far 3 3D Master System games: Maze Hunter 3D, Space Harrier
Okay.
Hunter 3D, and Sublock or something. It's a submarine.
So
Not submarine. It's a game where you're a 3D game where you're shooting off the ship, and there are 3D modes in this. If you got red and blue glasses, you can play these games
okay.
in 3D.
Okay, I was gonna
Which
say, like, how do they do the 3D Master System games? Because the original games required like these active shutter glasses.
yeah, they're not using the shutters. This is a different, I guess, a different kind of ROM that has just the stereoscopic 3D effect with the red and blue glasses.
All right, but I
That's
assume that you can also just play in 2D, right?
right, and so
That must require some programming or something.
yeah, so it is absolutely fun game because you just when you're on Honolulu, you're just walking around. There's constant thugs. They're called your enemy groups are called ruffians, thugs, and assholes in that order. And they have like poorly although while everything's dubbed in English, they're also like poorly written. Like some guy will run up to you and says, "I'll beat all your asses off" or something like that. And uh, so what I was gonna say, you go from island to island. You start at Rich Island. Uh, you go to another one because that was at the end of Infinite Wealth. Then you go to Honolulu, and all these you start gaining all these subplots as you go along. I will say, at least the story's more interesting and fun than some of the other Yakuza series, and they don't have a story go on for like a half hour before you go on to your next thing.
Well, that
Although there's
doesn't
still
sound
some
like a
long
Yakuza story.
There's still some long parts that might take 5 to 10 minutes to get through the story before you you get to your
Th-
ship or whatever. But
This game feels like something sort of tailor made to finally make me get a new Yakuza game because it's like it seems to be mostly disconnected from the rest of the series.
yeah,
You
except
know,
for the whole Honolulu part. Yeah, you're not in Japan at all. You're not in anywhere near Kamurocho.
I have
but
heard.
like it's
Well, let
got
me put
really
it this
interesting
way.
arcade games.
I have heard things about this game and its story and its premise that it is very, very much connected to the story of Infinite Wealth and specifically the ending of Infinite Wealth and the
Yeah.
Okay,
things
I'll
that you
play Infinite
discover in
Wealth
Infinite
first, I
Wealth.
guess. But also, like, it's
So
also a
yeah,
pirate
if
game,
you
and I love pirate games.
if you own Infinite Wealth, please play through Infinite Wealth before you start this because this will spoil the
I
entire
got
ending.
Game Pass, so I can just play
What's
it on
going on?
there.
Yeah. Anyway, what else was I going to say? Basically, the ship battles and going through the seas is very more arcade-like than say Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Like he was talking about, you have the cannons on both sides. You can do flamethrowers. You have little machine guns in front. What I do is I start off with machine guns in front of them. I go to the side, hit them with cannons. You can boost forward with the Y button because you have this. For some reason, this pirate ship has fuel, even though you have sails. And then you can do a hard skid around and go to get to the other side and shoot them again. And so that's pretty fun. I will say this is fair. I'm playing on normal and it's fairly easy so far. You do get a lot of different moves and style attacks. Some are a little crazy if you're in normal Majima mode, which you can has like a Hawaiian shirt on and what have you. You could do a move where there's like 3 shadows of you that'll help help you fight off some of the thugs. Or you can also build up one when you're in pirate mode, which will launch sharks after you play the violin. I just got that one after like a dozen hours of gameplay so far, and that's pretty fun. Yeah, this is an absolute blast. I recommend anybody who wants to try that to get this one. If you're interested in what arcade games there are in there's some subnautical like a kind of a shooter one, kind of like you know how a lot of light gun games now have turned into turrets because it's just easier to not have to do the flash thing reflecting back and forth. There's one like that. So you just got an aiming reticle. There's Fighting Vipers 2. There's some other fighting game I haven't, or it looks like it's a muscle training game, which I haven't tried. There's a
Is this
Sega
what?
Championship thing, but it's more Daytona USA. And then finally, there's both Virtual Fighter 3 and Virtual Fighter 3 Team Battle.
Is this why we had to delist the games? Is that now RGG Studios is just their retro game port house, and instead of releasing like retro game collections, it's like, no, we're just going to release Yakuza games that are also the retro game collections.
Kind of, it seems like that.
I doubt it, but that is a funny thought, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully, like they take all this stuff that they've been making as part of the Yakuza series and just release a goddamn compilation.
It's weird. There's the next Yakuza game is just called Yakuza Genesis Collection. It's the strangest thing.
Anyway, I was gonna say, so that's pretty much it for that. The other game I've been playing just came out this Friday. I pre-ordered it on Wednesday, so I won't be spending on Friday. I wanted to be part of that, protest thing. And so this one is Monster Hunter Wilds. This is I don't know how many in the Monster Hunter series, but it's pretty much a sequel to Monster Hunter World. Although they don't really have sequels, they're always new cast members.
It's most influenced it by it because World was so frickin' popular.
The one thing that's both good and bad is the ease of use with each series, the quality of life constantly improving in each one, but at the same time, it makes each game easier and easier, and that's how I'm feeling right now on this one, because even though I am going ahead and upgrading my armor, these 1-star monsters I'm fighting mostly by myself. Sometimes people might want to come in because it's an always online game. If you're having trouble, you can always SOS people, and then a group of people online will come in and fight the monster with you. So far, it feels like I didn't even need to upgrade my armor to beat these guys. At least in the 1-star area. I'm only like 4 hours into the game because it just started Friday and they haven't had a lot of time.
That would be my big question is, like, Monster Hunter's generally built around, hey, people are going to spend a long time in these games sort of grinding up to what they want to get. Do you think it's just an issue of, like, the difficulty curve maybe not ramping up as much as you think you would want it, or do you think that all around, like, hey, 5-star hunt in this is going to be not as satisfying than a 5-star hunt in, like, Rise?
It would be hard to say because I haven't gotten to that particular part yet. It seems like ones like Switch, the Nintendo Switch and DS ones, the lesser ones tend to have a higher difficulty curve than the mainstream like PS4, PS5 versions of these games. But that said, there's a lot of good stuff to it. You now have this feathered raptor called a secret that you can jump on. I don't know why it's called a secret, but it's not that same spelling. It's like with an I and a K. But it allows you to run down to wherever the monster is pretty much right away. You can also put it on automatic if you have enough wherewithal with where it is. That's another thing. It used to be even in Monster Hunter World, you'd follow these like butterfly or firefly things that would send you to the monster, but you had to get information. You had to find mud tracks, had to find the scent and everything. Here, there's a lot less of that, and you're just almost on autopilot for where the next monster is. I will say, the story's intriguing enough, and it's just in short spurts to follow the gameplay, which I like. There's a lot of dialogue this time, both in the Yakuza game and this one. There's a lot of spoken dialogue than there used to be, and that includes English dubs on both games.
That's one of the things that I've heard significant complaints about is, man, for a Monster Hunter game, this sure has a lot of, like, story that just goes.
Yeah, and there's not too much parts where, unlike Pirate Yakuza, there will be some times where they're just standing still and there's just text.
Well, sure,
There's
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
spoken dialogue, but there's a lot of standing still, and it's just text.
Yakuza,
There's
though,
not
like,
much. They're speaking all of the things. I do love the felines and palicos. Every time I do these, I make the palicos after my cat Zazzle. And this one is especially adorable, and it talks with a voice that sounds exactly like Tony Chopper in the American dub, so it's like ultra adorable while it's tagging along with me. Also, the one thing I'll say about these more recent Monster Hunter games is when you get like food that you either prepare or at another village, the way they make their food looks so freaking delicious, even though it's otherworldly, and I want this. I want to eat this so bad. Like you go to another village and they have these like flour bread that's got cheese built inside of it, and they're chewing it, and you see the string of cheese just coming out, and it's like, oh, this looks so delicious. Onto the monsters themselves. So far, not too much of a problem. I have like this giant spiky toad guy, this chicken. I tell you, it's a giant chicken character, and then this one really nasty spider one that drops stuff all over. My preferred weapon is the insect glaive, even though I don't use the insect part of it too much. I just like being able to jump high in the air and like land on a monster's back and attack him while it's trying to shake me off. That's always fun. Basically, it's another Monster Hunter. If you like those kind of games, you'll like this one. It does feel like they're getting easier and easier, but maybe once I get to the higher difficulties, I'm only 4 hours in, maybe they'll get tougher.
Well, the bright side about being easier is that it gives people who have struggled with the games in the past a chance to check it out.
Oh yeah, if you thought the other ones were too hard, give this one a try. I think you'll really enjoy it, or try Monster Hunter World. Even that one's fairly easy, but this one's even easier than that one. So and now, GX, you've been playing a game that I tried out for like 2 or 3 hours or so, but it didn't wow me. Do you want to talk about Avowed?
Sure. I've been bumping between a bunch of things. I'm gonna, give some lip service to stuff. For no particular reason, I went back to some All-Stars Racing Transformed. Do you know what game is really good? All-Stars Racing Transformed. Then I went over to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the expansion pass content. For no particular reason at all whatsoever. Certainly nothing topical. You know what game's real good? Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's real good.
You could have hit me up. We could have done some online.
I'm mostly just like I've never made it through all of the expansion pass tracks, so I've just been kind of bumping my way through each of those, just for fun, just to familiarize myself. They're good. They're solid, except for Berlin. I have issues with Berlin, so. But yeah, hey. Beyond that, yeah, the bulk of my time has been spent with Avowed, which is the latest Microsoft Studios big game dealy.
I really want to check that out. I'm kind of jealous of you right now.
Well, it is a Game Pass game, so honestly, like, all I was
I don't have my Series X with me at the moment.
But yeah, the only reason why I came to it was just I've been hearing some solid things online from a bunch of different people I follow, and it's like, oh, it sounds kind of neat. It's getting good vibes. Like I don't think I would go out and buy it, but it's nice to have people having fun time. And then I realized, oh, this is an Xbox game. This is a Game Pass game. I can go download it right now and play it on my PC. So I was like, okay, I did that. This is probably my first big long-form experience with Western RPGs in the traditional sense. So, Avowed is a...
Really? Not even Skyrim?
I have turned on Skyrim for like a little while, just to kind of get a feel of it, and it's like, cool, I'm gonna play something else. And then I just moved on. But
so
that's how I felt about this game, where I was actually a pretty big fan of Skyrim.
That's understandable. Like, I'm not saying like anything good or bad about Skyrim. I'm just saying in the moment, like, I turned it on and it was like, cool. I have other things on my list that I could be that I would want to play ahead of this right now, and just never went back to it. But by and large, like, yeah, if you're familiar with sort of the first person action of a Skyrim, this is probably going to be a different but familiar flavor. Uh, you are the envoy. Basically, hey, you are a godlike, and you are the envoy for your emperor. And
Ooh.
godlike means, hey, God touched you in the womb, and now you are connected to that god somehow. However, you don't know who your god is, so that sets up mystery number 1 that you will be pursuing in the game. Mystery number 2 is the empire that you are representing is effectively going through a rough spot, and it's deciding to do a colonialism. So effectively, hey, it's been moving into this new territory called the Living Lands, and the Living Lands are a strange, really hazardous, overgrown territory that has very few nodes of civilization throughout it, and by and large, it's kind of hard to live there because it just seems like all of the wildlife and the plant life is incredibly erratic and hazardous and sort of aggressive to anything that wants to be sort of structured. So, like, cities kind of always have to contend with this thing that's continuously sort of growing around it. So you don't have a lot of cities in it, but the ones that you do have, because of how challenging the territory is, it's usually populated by people for whom, like, hey, you're outcasts, you're people who just want to get away from society, who are kind of trying to escape something. So you just have this sort of rough and tumble group of people who are making their home in this really hostile environment. Meanwhile, your empire's like, yeah, we're gonna come in, we're gonna build infrastructure, we're gonna basically bend this wilderness over our knee and turn it into a place. So you are unfortunately, the other half of that is there's a blight. There's some sort of terrible disease that's impacting the world, that this island, called the Dream Scourge, and the Dream Scourge slowly makes you go crazy, and then makes you go violent crazy. And
Oh, I'm guessing this is an enemy type.
it does become an enemy type, but it also is your overall mission that you are sent to this land to help figure out why the Dream Scourge is happening and what you can do to stop it. And that is the premise of why your character is there. Throughout there, hey, you build up a team of different fighters. The combat mechanics are pretty interesting. It's the kind of thing where I wish I kind of had more context for this style of action Western RPG. But effectively, you get 2 loadouts that you can coordinate. One of the loadouts, for each of them, I should say, you get a left hand and a right hand piece of equipment. So you could go like, okay, I have a sword in my right hand and a shield in my left hand, and using each of the shoulder buttons, you can effectively, like, just use whichever one you're after. And you can mix and match in whatever ways that you feel confident in. So, like, hey, do you want to go like an axe and a wand, or do you want to go double knives for some reason? And you can do whatever organization of that you want. One of the ones that I went for because I thought it seemed the most interesting to me was, I am more of a magic build. So I have a spell book in one hand and a wand in the other. So effectively, wands are good for like mid-range distant attacks, and spell books actually give you spells that you can cast to do things with. And as I'm building that up, I can kind of manually learn spells from the book, and be able to use them without the book if I need to. So
Yeah.
one of my
It sounds like spells are more in depth than they are in Skyrim, where it's kind of like a shooting thing.
Oh, for sure, for sure. It still kind of is an elemental shooting thing. You can do things that are like an area of an effect spell, or a cone in front of you impact spell, or some form of support spell for yourself, or maybe other characters. I haven't found any that do that, but effectively you're just building out your character and going through and making a lot of difficult choices in this realm that, like, nobody wants you or your people to be there.
Hmm.
One of the and even within your own heavy air quotes faction, there's a group of paladins which, hey, who likes paladins? Nobody. Nobody likes paladins. Nobody likes paladins in any context ever. What if they're very warlike paladins who are very into what they're doing?
Isn't that every paladin?
Yeah. Yeah, sure is.
Isn't that why no one likes them?
Yeah. So your emperor had already sent off a group of paladins who are very interested for their god to tame the wilderness, and are doing a lot of things that are deeply, deeply questionable. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of the kind of dialogue choices that you would make that do actually change the way that the story progresses, based on things that you could find or things that you could decide in scenarios. I don't want to say too much, but consider this. I will try to leave it vague spoilers. But spoilers nonetheless. I am probably about the 60% point, if I had to guess, maybe somewhere between
Wow.
60 and 80. And I have reached a point where I am wrapping up everything I can do in, like, the third area, and the finale of that is effectively, okay, my dude, do you want to let things continue to be worse? We can put a band-aid over this situation, or we can fix it, but you're gonna have to do a Thanos snap. And I don't
Oh
and
boy.
I don't mean that especially figuratively. Like, hey, we can do this, but it's gonna have some bad consequences. And yeah.
So pretty big moral dilemma near the end of the game, huh?
Yeah, halfway point. I can tell you some of my group members in my team were like, "Oh, I'm not happy about this choice that you just made. No, you made a real stupid choice there."
God.
But
I'll be honest, I would be very tempted to pick the Band-Aid. I'm not gonna see I'm not gonna see what happens afterwards.
oh no, but I mean, I'm not going to tell you which one I made, but yeah, it asks you to do some interesting things. I think in one of them there was the possibility that if I hadn't found something on a map, and there was a point in the second area where I found a place on the map, and it was an incredibly difficult fight to get through and finish, to the extent that I basically had to leave, put a pin in it to think, okay, once I get better equipment, I'm coming back here and I'm cleaning house. I'm wiping this thing completely out. And once I did, I went back and encountered some other instances in and around the map that weren't necessarily expecting me to have beaten that portion yet, but
Oh
they
boy.
but they had reactions. Like there was someone who was like, "Hey, friend, we're real glad to see you. You know, we're prepping this thing over here, and we were wondering if you Oh, oh, you killed everyone there. Well, I'm gonna fight you now." And there's a good chance that if I did not have, there is a good chance that if I did not do that, there's a city that might not exist on that map anymore. So,
As in, you saved a city or you destroyed a city?
saved a city, we'll say.
Okay.
But yeah, it flows really well. It has the right. It feels like it has the right amount of pacing for something like this. Like a Skyrim, you can spend hundreds of hours. This game, like, you might get to 100 hours if you feel compelled to do everything. But if you just want to do like some of the main stuff or some of the stuff that you run into, then it's probably like a 40-hour game. I think on the lowest critical path, people are saying like 16 hours, but
So short by RPG standards.
oh yeah. It's short, it's
Kind
brisk
of reminds
enough,
me of
and
the first Fable
and
in that sense.
like all your teammates are funny and interesting and have great interactions, and each of them usually has a lot of significant story moments. You unpack them and who they are and like what their relationship is with the land in these different
Well, that's
areas
cool.
and regions. And I give it a hearty recommend if you want to pick up a Western RPG and give it a shot. I think as a first one, it might set my expectations a little unusually, so I don't know if I can start Skyrim now, especially not with Xenoblade on the horizon. That's my
Yeah,
next
that's
big.
been getting in the way of things for me.
Oh, I am so looking forward to when that releases this month. I am. Oh, I hang out in a community where we're all big Xeno heads, and I no, you know what? I'm not going to use that phrase. We're all big Xenoblade heads. No, we're not big Xeno heads. But yeah, it's a neat one of these. It's a neat one
That's
of
cool.
these, and I think it's worth checking out if you want to engage with some interesting systems and have a lot of good weird dialogue. One of them
I
was.
definitely plan to.
I'll wrap it up with one of the later interactions I found before wrapping up. I found someone who just like was just sitting there. It's like, hey, what's up? This place isn't safe. And she's just wasted out of her mind. Like, she is just absolutely high. And she's like, hey, you want some? It's like, it'll take the edge off. It's like, yeah, And then for my character, I said, yeah, I did before. No. I wouldn't describe it as that. And then we just went on our separate ways. I just found a stoner and engaged with her slightly and decided, no, we're good.
Should have taken her up on that.
I'm gonna in my mind, my character has already lived a life. Like I picked the class whose background was like, hey, I'm a wilderness guy. I can hang around in a town or court, but I'm not there. So it usually gives me a lot of dialogue choices where it's like, hey, I get it. I know how to hunt things. I know how to be in the wilderness. I know how to do this stuff. Yeah, it's neat. My guy is always shirtless, and he has tree bark growing on his face because it's part of being a godlike. Is you have mushrooms or tree bark or whatever, or flowers or stuff growing out of your head.
That's the one thing
Cool.
where I was thankful that you had the option not to have that as far as.
Oh
Yeah,
no, you got to
you
go
know,
for it, man. You got to go
it's
for it.
there, but you don't have to. Then they'll say, "Oh, look at that stuff you have in your face," but you
No,
don't
you
have
got to
to.
go for it, man. You wear that with pride. Wear your mushrooms, sir.
So, we're moving on to the first big discussion topic of the night. So in order to like keep things a little focused, I want to just be able to talk about this game for a few minutes uninterrupted. Before we go into the full-blown discussion between me and Shigs,
You want to have a
GX,
diatribe, is what you're saying.
yeah, GX, you're just gonna like, I guess, comment on things and stuff because you didn't get to play it.
I'm your hype man.
But
I chime in on every third word and just draw the excitement for it.
yes, after I have said my initial piece.
Whoa, he said it, yo!
Anyway, so Sonic Racing CrossWorlds.
I'm
had
hearing that CrossWorlds! I'm done.
a closed
Go ahead.
network test. Last week, but maybe a little further, but you know what I mean. And by and large, like it seemed to get a lot of positive reception from like the casual fans, but then there's like the hardcore people who are like big racing fans, and
Like
I feel
me.
like we kind of all had a relatively similar underwhelming impression. So Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, to just summarize it, is an extremely chaotic game. As I say in my hands-on preview on the Sonic Stadium website, is a fast, fun, chaotic mess. Emphasis on the chaotic mess. Like the like I am a fan of Sonic Racing All Stars Transformed. Yes, it's a great it's a great controlling racer. It's got great drifting, but it's also got like a kind of race that you can really focus on, that that is really driven by skill.
It's technically satisfying as well as a fun kart
Is
racer.
Yes, it is technically satisfying, and that is not Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, at least as of the closed beta. Because like the drifting feels good. I like the drifting. The driving feels good. But
It's a
uh
little arcadey and it takes a tiny bit to get used to, but once you
it's
do, it's fine.
it's a
It's
very
more than
arcadey game,
applicable.
and the items are absolutely overwhelming in this game. Like it is more insane and chaotic than the worst of Mario Kart. Like you will just be hit constantly in this game. You will be flattened, sliced in half, pushed around. Like it is just like constantly getting hit or hitting. And it really feels like a game that has lowered its skill ceiling um in order to, I guess, just accommodate, I guess, party racers or something, but doesn't even have the methodicalness of a Mario Kart. Like with a Mario Kart, as much as though as I'm not a huge fan of those games, like you can still strategize with that to an extent. You know, you can like get a defensive item, use it to take out a blue shell,
No, you could, like,
and
to be clear, a lot of Mario Kart is getting an offensive item and being able to use it defensively.
and that too. Um,
No, I'm saying that as that is a big part of Mario Kart strategy if you are playing Mario Kart in a meaningful
I
strategic way.
mean, you can technically use certain items in this defensively. Like certain items will make you invincible. Certain offensive items will make you invincible. But in my
Problem.
mind, that does not override this game's one of this game's primary issues, which is that it does not have enough focus on defensive items, and there are just too many items flying around throughout the entire race. Anyway, okay, I have said my piece. Let's get into this. Shakes, what are you trying to say?
Yeah, like what you said. There's all offense, very little defense. One of the things that bugs me just in the race alone is any other kart racing game. If you bump into somebody, you're just tapping just a slight bump, and you keep going. Like the one thing they do in like Disney Speedstorm is to give a little bit of an edge and give a little bit of competition. You can nudge the right stick and shove it to a player, and that'll bump them a little harder. But in this, other racer who touches you makes you bump like a triple little bump where you're kind of tapping like one of those old samurai parodies, like the plaything. Oh, and they're hopping on one foot, for three
Yeah.
steps. It's kind of like that, and it's constant, so it's hard to get a good steering on especially when the initial races.
I
And
don't recall quite having that issue, but certainly it can
it
be
was
difficult
it
to
was bugging the crap out of
maintain.
me.
It
Uh,
can be difficult to maintain a drift in this game because of
yeah,
all the things constantly attacking you.
the other thing was like you have a gadgets section where you can earn a whole bunch of gadgets that you can use in the game, and they help you out. Like the first one you get is one where you can use it right away and drop on an opponent that's several leagues ahead
Ah,
of
the
you and
warp
just
ring.
squash them. Yes,
Yes, yes.
that's a little too too
The
much.
warp ring
But
is overpowered, and it's something you can only get if you have it equipped as a gadget. And that,
right,
like, it felt great using it, but it's one of those, like, reaping and sowing situations where it feels really really great to reap, but when you're actually getting hit by the damn thing, you're like, no, no,
yeah,
I
and
don't want to get
I
smashed.
like that you have this gadget like badge thing where you can have several different types of outputs for it. So if you want to be a more of an offensive racer, you can have offensive specials. If you want to be more defensive, you can have defensive specials,
You
but they
can
still have to.
theoretically have a
You can
defensive up, but
have
it doesn't work
a
very well.
a gadget badge thing where it's all collecting rings and trying to make it so you barely lose any rings. That I
Yeah,
like. That's a strategy, but it's just like you said. There's just way too much it's way too chaotic, and not in the detective agency kind of way. It is
and
just
and
ridiculously over attacked. I've gone from first place to 12th place in an instant, and vice versa, just on gadgets alone.
yeah,
Plus
that happens to me all the time. I'm
the
all
one
like,
thing that
I'm winning finally, and then I get hit, and the entire racetrack just blows past me, and I am yelling internally.
yeah, and what's
Like, my
worse is a
God.
lot of it happens right near the end because each track suddenly has a massive amount of boosts right at the end of the game. There's a whole mess of boosts, so everyone could just boost out like crazy right at the end. And
You're breaking up on my end. I'm not hearing it.
oh, so like
Sorry.
all those boost pads that are right at the end of each race, just
Uh,
you're doing well, and then suddenly everybody can skip ahead of you. Or the one weird thing is sometimes the stats I don't think are working as good as they are. I had one racer that I balanced out a Shadow or Sonic with a handling or
and-
acceleration race track thing. It was I had it really well and good, and I
yeah.
was suddenly one of the first people, at the front of the track. So I had speed and I had acceleration, and somehow they just boosted right ahead of me like seconds in. I'm like, how the hell is that possible? How
Well,
the hell is that
were
possible?
you doing the thing with the gauge where you were like
Oh yeah, see,
trying?
I've got a lot of practice on it because that's the exact same thing they do in this
Okay, so
Speed
you
Storm.
got so I assume you got the racing boost at the start
Yeah, I
then.
did get the racing boost at the start because like I said, they do the exact same thing in Disney Speedstorm. So I've
That
on
is
that like
something
quite a bit.
I really enjoyed. Like with Mario Kart and the old Transform games, like it's always a bit of a. I'm not always the best at like getting it to
The
give me the
timing
racing
issue and
boost.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I really did appreciate just having a gauge, and you can either like try to use the analog triggers to measure your try to get your like little boost arrow on the correct part of the gauge, or you can just like wait for a certain moment in the countdown to just press it down. You can like also like just time it like that where it'll just like land on or near the big boost. Um, but that was nice. But anyway, for I ran an experiment where I made a defensive focused build where like I picked defensive items up, no offensive items up or anything like that. It was just purely defensive items up, and then like a couple of other things that would not affect item drop rate. and I still like barely got the game's few defensive items, which like one of them is just like this shield that turns your character into metal. I may have gotten that like 3 or 4 times throughout the whole game. And like I don't know, like one way you like transformed reduce the effectiveness of items was that you could just get a shield, and you would often get stuff like the shield when you are up front, and so like it sets up a barrier so that you can't be taken out by just one item, and it gives you some like room to mess up or get hit and stuff without completely ruining your race. And this game just has no equivalent of that, at least none that seem to work especially well.
Yeah, I will say that it doesn't seem to benefit that much if you're in first. You don't get that many defensive items. You get more offensive items that you can shoot behind you, but which doesn't always help.
I noticed a whole lot of difference in the items I got, regardless of where I was in the race. And where I was in the race also didn't seem to affect how much I got hit. Like I could be in 11th place, and then like I would still get smacked by these powerful things from behind, and it's like, ugh. And like, and meanwhile, like maybe I would get a power item, maybe I wouldn't. Like I don't know. It felt less fair than kart racers typically are. It's
Right.
weird.
I
So like
guess we should start talking about the positive stuff because a lot of
we should,
this
but
is this
let
is
me
very
just
early in
say,
the game.
let me just finish it. Let me just finish off by saying that the items really need a rebalancing. Like I think that is the
Very much.
key issue here. And I very much do think that is a thing that they can do. Like in the CrossWorlds closed beta, like the thing, the survey. Like one of the things they ask you about, did you not like the items, and like you can comment on that.
Oh yeah, they let you comment in great detail on the survey, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, I really need to fill that thing out. I was going to do that right after I finished my preview. Um, but like yeah, so these issues do feel fixable. And one other thing, in addition to the items, uh, I'm also not a huge fan of the changes they made to the trick system, because in Sumo Digital's trilogy, you could use tricks to maneuver your vehicle, and that not only like gives you like a proper good boost, but like gives you some additional aerial maneuverability.
Well,
That
you also needed to really it was this
oh
one
yeah, I was
feels
gonna get into that.
these tricks feel very much like the same way that you would have them in Sonic Rush, which is
I
once
was
you have
about
any
to say
opportunity, you
that.
just mash them. You just mash it to do as much as you can. Whereas,
Yeah, well, there is one gadget where you could do it a lot faster than normal, and when I do that, it's just like out of Sonic Rush. He's like, yeah, yeah, all right, well, let's go, bye.
But
but
like
but in
but
Transformed and even like Team Sonic Racing, the trick system was in so much as like you had to be really careful with when you did or did not apply a trick because it could go very wrong if you do not finish that
yeah,
trick by the
like
time that you
there is
land.
there is very little depth. There's no depth to the tricks in this game, because like I said, you cannot use them to maneuver. There is no consequence for spamming them, because if you land in the middle of a trick, like it doesn't matter, you just boost the moment you land. And frankly, the boost you get out of the tricks also does not feel as rewarding as it did in the Sumo Digital trilogy. And so the tricks really do feel like a very big downgrade. And in addition to that, they also feel weightless, which that's like another thing that kind of makes this game feel pretty arcadey, is how the car can feel weightless in moments like that. So like that definitely needs a bigger change than the items, in my opinion. But anyway, so the positive. Sorry, Shigs.
I was
The
gonna say,
tracks are really cool.
oh yeah, very much so. I really enjoy how the tracks are designed.
Like I
The
like this more
layouts
than
are
Team
great.
Sonic Racing, and that's primarily because the tracks are just so cool.
Yeah, I think as a single player game, I probably like this a hell of a lot better than I do online right now. And I'm hopefully it
Oh
won't
yeah.
be the same in its current state, because like I said, this is probably quite a few months out from release, or at least 3 to 4 months out from
So
release.
I've watched a
And then
reasonable
hopefully
amount.
the
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
I've watched a reasonable amount of footage of this, just between the stuff that we put out and you know, just general. Hey, people are putting stuff out about it and discussing it. I'm I'm not. The aesthetics for the courses are absolutely fine. The track design, the track layouts themselves, I'm a little bit iffy on. It has some positive moments, but it also has some courses that are kind of simple. Like I'm looking at the Metal Harbor one as I put up the video, and like it seems kind of neat, but it's also just a big massive T. And yeah, it's really one of the neat things is that there was a shortcut whenever you headed into the dinosaur jungle mini track, but there was like a really cool skip where you could jump off, do a really tight corner skip, and then land back on the track if you were skillful enough to do it.
I
But
was not.
but I'm not seeing things in it yet that really speak to me in design. It's a little basic. I'm hoping that this is just because it's early going and it's only showing a limited number of things so far, but nothing about the track design is really speaking to me yet.
Well, I found the tracks to be extremely exhilarating, especially like and the way the CrossWorlds uh, effect change things up adds to that exhilaration further.
And
So
I
so
do
it's
like
like
that there's some several shortcuts where you either blink or you miss it, or if you take it, you have to have a certain level of skill to get past
yeah,
it. There's
yeah.
one on Ocean Wave or
It
whatever it's called.
it
That's
no,
really difficult to do the
t-
shortcut with.
tell me if this seems reasonable to suggest, but the vibe I'm getting from it is less there are the actual layout of the track itself is interesting versus they put things on the track that are interesting.
I mean, I don't really know how to answer that because I guess tend to if the track is if I'm having fun racing down the track, I'm having fun racing down the track. um, and like I don't find them to be especially bland. Like
So
there's plenty of spectacle, plenty of tricks, plenty of things to keep me thinking throughout the entire race. So I'm never like thinking for a moment, man, I'm just drifting here, I'm just driving here. Like I'm just constantly trying to avoid things and constantly trying to keep my drift going and like because between all of the spectacles and track hazards and the way the tracks will shift and transform, like I'm just constantly being entertained
so
throughout the course of the
I'll
race.
give an example. In All Stars Racing Transformed, I can tell you some moments that feel very iconic to me. Roulette Road has the really, really long double circle section where the track splits in twain, and it's just this continuous long drift across the circular track for a large portion of that. I have vivid memories of that. That is a track that reappears in all three of the Sumo Digital games. I remember very vividly the Nights into Dreams has the segment from Transformed has the big long section with the river, the icy river, where it suddenly gets extremely rocky and it breaks off into a bunch of different paths where you can attempt to go into plane mode if you can hit rocks in the correct, or if you can hit rock jumps in the correct way. Uh, it's just moments like that where I look at that and think like, okay, there's a lot of good thought into how this track is fundamentally designed. It's not just a bunch of gimmicks. It's more like, okay, we know how to arrange a path for you to go through
Well,
in an
in
interesting way.
CrossWorlds Dinosaur Jungle, there's this moment where you like have to where you have to like drift between all these rampaging T-Rexes while you're also trying to hit the upper the upper wooden pads with the boost pads. You can like boost if you can like drive off one and get onto the other uh,
Maybe
and
maybe
and
what
so
I'm
yeah.
maybe what I'm not seeing then is consistency then. Like I what I'm seeing in this is I'm seeing a lot of straightaways and soft curves and then occasionally like a bunch of very hard curves. Like
And in Lava Planet, like there's a lot of choice between uh, landing on the. You can either like try to keep flying throughout most of that course, or you can land and do some old fashioned driving and drifting through through the through the that world's car tracks. And I don't know, like I kind of come at racing games from a different perspective to you, so I'm not really sure how to really answer you.
Yeah, because I think I've been enjoying the tracks as well. I haven't really had too much of an issue as far as how they're going, how they land, and everything. I just enjoy the way they are. Like would enjoy a Mario Kart. Like it's mostly for the spectacle and that, and if they got nice shortcuts where you can, or it takes some skill that if you don't get constantly bumped and hit on that, then I'm just happy with that. You know. The other thing is the car customization has gone through the roof now. I mean, now
Oh God.
you're not stuck with just Sonic and Sonic's car. Sonic can drive the Eggmobile. Sonic can drive the trucks, the tanks.
The
Of course,
only
you have the Supreme
limitation
Gear.
is that you can only mix and match cars of the same class. Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, it it also affects how your stats are. So you got to look at your stats of the racer versus the stats of your vehicle if you want the best advantage.
that's actually something I was going to bring up because I know I expressed concerns in the previous episode, and I was talking with someone else who had gone through the the tech test, and one of the things that she noticed with it was by late in the window, it felt like a lot of the builds were really starting to coalesce around specific ones where you would just see the same build over and over and over again in across races that basically, hey, maybe a meta was forming.
well, the characters have the biggest focus on the stacks. Then from there, you can like enact smaller changes through the different car types and car parks. Um,
Yeah,
and
so I
I don't
mean,
know if I necessarily noticed a meta. Like a lot of people really does seem to gravitate towards Sonic and Shadow. uh, but I don't know. I went through all of the I went through all of the characters. The only one I really had unnaturally bad luck with was Dr. Eggman.
well, he's got the low speed on that one. But I do
Yeah.
enjoy that you not only you can do any car, you have these a mirage of car parts that you could switch and swap with to
And you
create
can
your own
also
type of
apply
vehicle.
stickers.
You can apply different stickers, which eventually you have to keep grinding to get extra stickers. That's the only problem is the don't deposit thing. Plus,
Are stickers
your
just
paint
decorative?
jobs, yeah, they're just
Yeah,
decorative.
they're just decorative.
And
Okay.
some of the other decorative stuff is your paint jobs have like you can do different gloss style. You can do it instantly depending on the character you're racing as. If you want a character style color for your car, or you can do any kind of thing your own way as far as colors go.
There were like
And
a couple of cars where I specifically like went in and I carefully calibrated each color, and I did have a lot of fun with that.
yeah, and yeah, there's that. And plus, with the stats and the cars, it's nice to be able to mix and match that way. I tended to race as like Sonic or Shadow with a speed stat with a good handling car. I like the one where you can make the moto bug as a as a card, so I can kind of use that. So I'd have speed and handling. I didn't for the longest time, although I was just mixing and matching and having fun doing that, but I wasn't always winning very often. In fact, I think I've only gotten first place like 3 or 4 times
Yeah,
in this game.
I didn't win too much either, and when I did, it was before you hit I hit C minus,
But
and all of the box left.
yeah, I hit C altogether. But one thing I did notice is towards the end on Sunday, I found my niche of a speed character of either Sonic or Shadow, and then a handling car, and then I was getting either first or in the top 5, and so that's part of it is just how you're the kind of car you want to handle and what kind of speed you want on it. I think really helps. But like we were saying, like the chaotic stuff, as far as you're not going to get first place too often. There's when you do get first place, the next when the next race comes, you have a crown on your head. It's really cute when you're playing as Cream and Cheese, though, because Cheese wears the crown on his head while he's swiveling around on the Cream's head. But there's a lot of games where I played where either 1 or 2 players had a crown on their head, or no players had crowns on their heads, which shows just how hard the main online portion is right now.
Yeah. Overall, like this definitely feels like a game that is early on in its balancing, but it's not. I don't think it feels pretty polished in terms of like its programming. Like I know that some people encountered some weird glitches, like
I've had a
like
few
the
times
CrossWorlds
where
thing would break.
I'd be in the lobby and it was ready to go, and suddenly we would just all get kicked out.
Yeah, like
Kind of
that
case. So
was.
that
I
kind of
only had
happens normally in online games sometimes.
I only encountered disconnect issues, and that was it. And like that was the whole. That's like the primary reason why you do this kind of closed beta test is to
Well,
stress test the
I
servers.
think this in this case it was less the servers that than they wanted to check for balancing issues. I imagine this game's not coming out like in a month or two.
Oh,
It's
definitely not.
probably
Like,
not coming out till summer at least.
yeah,
I hope. I really hope they're not coming out in spring.
but like, the main thing I'm worried about them not changing is how the tricks work. But like I don't know, like so like ultimately I did have a lot of fun with this. Like it does not replace Transformed. I still need that port, especially if this is how the final game is gonna play.
So, should this
But
be the moment where GX gets his grump on?
uh, maybe next episode, I guess. But yeah, sure. Um,
Next
but like
episode. What?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You can get your grump on, but just let us finish first, I guess.
Yeah, okay, go
Um,
ahead.
yeah, it doesn't replace Transformed. It is a step up from Team Sonic Racing for me. I really enjoyed all of the cross world aspects of the courses, especially like it is insane drifting along the side of a sauropod or blasting through Volcano Planet, and like having a decent amount of choice in regards to whether or not I want to be in a car or a plane, and like I don't know, like all of the courses have the kind of spectacle that I really that was really lacking in Team Sonic Racing. Although the music is also kind of just bland.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of it is we can't really hear it because the sound effects
That
are
is
so
true.
loud.
It's got a
But then when
very
you get to
arcadey sound design, by the way.
the last
Very
track,
arcadey
suddenly
sound design.
there's some kind of choir going through, going
Are you making a
like
noise?
Yeah, that's like I was saying. The choir thing right at the end is just kind of,
Ah,
you know.
yeah. Um, but like, yeah, on the whole, it's looking fun, but not great. And unless like you love absolute item chaos GX, you're probably not gonna like this either. I don't know.
No, I don't like. Yeah, the item issue is obviously going to be a problem. Like, no argument there. Everyone who I have interacted with in this game has expressed that this is a problem, and I don't know how exactly they're going to solve that, but I'm sure that that was probably the most prominent feedback they got. No, the part that I'm upset about was the part that you said this is not a replacement for Transformed.
Yeah.
Uh, so I want to highlight that this game does not and will not exist in a vacuum. We are getting a Mario Kart on the near horizon, and going back to Mario Kart 8 was a reminder of how good Mario Kart 8 can feel. Going back to
Mm.
Transformed was a reminder
My
of
favorite Mario Kart.
how satisfying All Stars Racing Transformed feels. There there was a strong realm for this to fulfill a, let's say, a niche that Mario Kart doesn't go for. And instead it feels like they're going for what if Mario Kart but somehow slightly crazier. And it sounds like they missed the mark on that. My issue
Yeah.
is I'm going
Yeah.
to own Mario Kart, and I'm going to be playing the upcoming Mario Kart whatever it is. And I need the argument to tell me, like, this fulfills something that that game won't. And what I'm hearing from people discuss sounds like it is probably not going to be as good or as interesting. It's not going to have the same technical identity and differentiator that I would expect from it. That maybe the plane and boat stuff isn't going to be as dramatically different in the same way that it was in Transformed. That there's really strong motivation to be in one or the other, or that you really have to rethink how you're maneuvering something in one or the other, or prioritizing one over the other. And that's what I'm incredibly concerned about, is why would I play this game? What is the argument for this game compared to other games on the market right now? Because Transformed, I have an answer to that. It's very technically interesting. It's a game whose it's a game who has such a satisfying drift, who has a satisfying handling, that has a good combination of items that do add nuance but don't inherently solve the game, we'll say. That I have such a great time with it. Like, what I'm hearing from you guys is a good it's good, but it's not great. I'm hearing that it handles fine. Like, that's what I'm hearing, is it's fine. And what I'm looking for is something that is better than fine. I am looking for something that is...
Tricks aside, I do think this handles about as well as Transform did.
I don't really agree with that.
I have heard numerous people say otherwise, and I'm more inclined to believe people who are not, like, super arcadey big fans.
Yeah, I'm still playing a lot of Disney Speedstorm Online, and that is still by far better than what's going on here.
Yeah, I've heard enough. I've heard enough people who have more nuanced views on how vehicles and kart racers should control. I have heard enough. Like if you want to hear the most damning thing, I have heard not just you, but like 5 people make the comparison to Mario Kart GT. Mario Kart GT is not a good game. Mario Kart GT is a fun experience to spend 10 minutes in a Dave & Buster's and then move on to something
Yeah,
else.
I kind
Like,
of gotta agree with you because he says the drifting's fine. I still don't think the drifting's that fine. I think there's times where either I'm drifting too tight, like if I get a handling one that's way too strong in handling, I'm drifting and turning corners way too tightly, or if I don't have good handling, I'm hitting the wall. And
I mean,
it's
any
hard to
issues I
get the
had with
right in
drifting in this
between.
game were the same issues I'd have in a Sumo Digital game. So I
I
don't
gotta
know what to
agree with
tell you.
that.
that's odd. I've never. You would have to get. I would love to hear what your issues are with the Sumo digital drifting, but that's
I don't
probably a
have any.
discussion for another time.
Well, I wouldn't consider it issues with the game. I'd say it's issues with my skill.
Okay. I I absolutely love the satisfaction of being able to learn and master hitting a drift from the right distance and grabbing the perfect inner curve to hit what I need to.
I actually played some Team Sonic Racing on to test my streaming capabilities ahead of CrossWorlds in case I ended up doing that. And like one of the things I ended up playing was a drifting mini game, and like I don't know, like I was having it. I was struggling a bit there too, but it felt very similar to what I would end up doing with CrossWorlds in regards to how it like how well I could like corner things and how well I could maneuver my car while I'm drifting and stuff, and it just felt similar to me.
If you say so, right now I'm going by sort of the culmination. I was going through the discussions in the staff channel of just like, okay, everyone's discovering all of this all at once. This is where their reactions are. Early stuff is like, okay, this is different, which okay, different's fine. I'm looking for a level of depth in the actual driving that is beyond like, okay, you can equip these special things. I'm looking for something that's going to be as technically satisfying because that's, like I said at the beginning, that's the thing that to me differentiates it from every other party kart racer. Like, unless you can stand up in some significant way, what makes this game stand out? And for a lot of the people in the community, it's going to be, well, this is the one with Sonic in it, so I have to play the one with Sonic in it. I've got to play the Sonic one. And I don't live in that world. It doesn't have. I will play another kart racer that isn't Sonic. Hell, I spent a lot of time with that Nexon one, and that was really solid, actually.
Yeah, I will agree with that. It is too arcade-like. I mean, we're only dealing with 3 buttons altogether. You know, gas, drift,
Gadget.
and gadget. That's pretty much it. Where like in a lot of other games, there you're still using the right stick. You're usually using the other two L and R buttons in some form. And it's not in a way to make it more complicated. It's to give you better control, better options for control. Where for here, it feels almost like a quarter muncher in certain regards.
And
I
that's
mean,
kind of my worry is like I don't that's not a game that I want to spend, I don't know, 10 to 20 hours with. That's a game that it's like, okay, I spent a little bit of money, I got my experience and I left.
to be clear, when I'm saying arcadey like, I am mostly referring to stuff like again the items, the sound design,
No, I understand.
the spectacle of the tracks, and the weightlessness of the tricks. That is what I mean when I say arcadey like. Like,
I
let's
understand.
remember that Sumo Digital's racers are also inherently based in an arcade lineage.
I
Um,
understand that, but I am not purely going by what you have said. Like I'm
all
going
right.
by the reaction of many people who I have at least listened to the discussion of in regard to how this works. So yeah, I understand you mean something slightly different, but I'm also hearing like 4 other people who don't mean something different.
Like controls are fine once you get used to them, but you shouldn't have to get used to them. They should be.
Well, no,
For me, the
If
controls
you
were
have
fine the moment
experience
I switched over to
with
the Team
other
Sonic
kart racers,
Racing
you know.
control style.
I
I mean,
Well, the moment I did that, everything
it's not
clicked
such
for
a
me.
drastic thing like Crash Bandicoot Racing compared to Mario Kart Racing.
Oh yeah, like if
But
if you
still.
if you want to if you want to know where this whole thing comes from, Team Sonic Racing and Crash Team Racing Nitro Charged came out at roughly the same window, and based on what happened at that time, like I immediately gravitated towards Team Sonic Racing. Yes, all the criticisms of Team Sonic Racing are accurate, but what it gets right is its handling. And Crash felt like trash. Like it felt like a PS1 game. I did
I
not
mean,
like
it was
anything
a
about that.
PS1 game.
Yeah, and they didn't bother to modernize it in a meaningful way that made it feel good, and you could tell. Like it's honest, it's true to its roots, I suppose, but I was like good, really satisfying, really familiar handling, or at least very we'll say technically satisfying handling for me will always beat. Well, this one has the different structure that's interesting. Like
As it should.
yeah, well that's what I'm saying here, but yeah. Like I'm really looking for something in this game to fill me with a bit more confidence in it that it's not just going to be okay, bigger context. I've had a lot of experience in the last 5 years that I would within the Sonic realm that I would describe as it's fine. Like I played through Sonic Colors Ultimate, like yeah, it's good on the back of that and it's a bad port, but like it's fine. Sonic Frontiers is horrifically repetitive and doesn't have a lot of ideas on what to do with an open world. It's fine. Shadow Generations is on the higher end of it's fine. I still don't think its level design is as interesting as the original Sonic Generations. I'm looking for something to finally break me of that. Like something that can be more than like it's just fine. Like the last thing that could have been that was Sonic Superstars, and that is on the low end of it's fine. Like that is ugh.
Well, I think for you, that's going to depend on how much they change and how much they balance things over the between now and whenever the game is coming out. Anyway,
I hope it's as simple as it just needing a new balance wipe or a
but
new balance
all I
pass.
know is like one of the only pluses for me falling way behind the other racers, which happened a lot, was that like I would just be drifting and moving along in the course and thinking, oh hey, this is I actually feel like I'm doing pretty decently. This feels pretty good, and then I look down, like, oh. I'm in 12th place. That's why I'm too far behind for anything to hit me now. And like that was just an experience I had numerous times throughout this game, which is why I maintain that I find the driving physics and stuff to be pretty satisfying. And like I think that unless they again unless they also unless they change the trick system, it's still gonna be inferior to transformed, but I do think that this game can be made a lot better through just adjustments. But I think ultimately probably I do kind of get the impression that chaos is kind of the goal here. um it kind of feels like that is meant to be this game's identity, and like even if they maybe lean away from that a little bit, like I don't know how much they're really going to be willing to. So we'll
Yeah,
just have to see.
there's things innate to what this game is that I think I just bristle against. Like I'm to me, I am looking for something that captures the way that I felt with Transformed, because that's an extremely good game that I love, and will put on the same pedestal as a Mario Kart. Like, it has things that it does better than certain Mario Karts. It is impressive in ways, and I think what I'm getting out of this is like, is it gonna be good? Yeah, maybe, probably. Is it gonna be impressive though? And that's where I'm looking at it and thinking like, oh, I don't get that vibe.
Well, we'll just have to see. I do want to move on now, unless you have anything you're burning to say, Shigs.
No, that's I've been waiting for us to continue
All
on.
right,
That's fine.
so getting into gaming news. The big thing that just happened recently was that Sonic Unleashed got a PC recompilation by fans, which effectively means it now has a PC port, finally. And as a
It
fan
does.
of Unleashed, I am happy about that.
I thought you were a mid-range attitude of Unleashed.
I
I've always been a pretty big
I
fan of Unleashed.
always I really liked it in 2008. In 2024, I see its flaws.
I
I have
enjoyed it
my
in
issues with
2008
it,
too, but I'm a different
but
person than I
I
was in
still do.
2008.
But I do. I mean, like I still enjoy the boosting. I still enjoy the daytime gameplay. I still think the Werehog is a decent beat 'em up game. Like like the same way I thought
If
I
it was
felt in
if it was in
2008.
shorter spurts, I think what
Like
I'm praying happens to this game is somebody does their own like special edition with it where they cut out some of the more ridiculously hard parts and maybe shorten each Werehog level by about 50%. And I would
my
be very happy.
ideal Sonic Unleashed remaster is one where the longer levels are cut up into acts,
the
especially the Werehog stuff.
You mean like what they did with the Wii?
Yeah, basically, except also do it to some of those goddamn daytime levels.
the
Also, like some Colors Ultimate style QOL improvements, like lives, like get rid of lives, give us the tail assists, give us the
Yeah.
warning signs and
problem
stuff
the
for bomb
problem that I
mistakes.
think we're all going to be facing with this though is the people who care about this game most are the weird difficulty perverts who
Yeah, but
actually
I don't.
want all that BS. It's like everything that
And
I would want out of this game to make it more friendly are the things that the people I communicate with about Unleashed are like, no, I want it. I want this game to be a memorization thing. I'll memorize all these levels. I want to play it 5,000 times so I can shave off 20 seconds. And also, Eggman Land's too short.
this is something that like I
Sonic
acknowledged to
Unleashed
you
by working
in the Sonic
designs.
Stadium Discord. Like you say, Shigs?
I said Sonic Unleashed by working designs.
Christ almighty.
But it's like I don't care about them. They don't matter.
Yeah,
They
they
are
do
a
matter
tiny.
because guess who are the people passionate enough to actually make mods and crap? Have you ever looked at ROM mods before?
Well, you know what? Those are the people who can just make the game worse again. Sonic Unleashed, unsegified or whatever. I don't know. um, but it's like, but like these are changes that they would need to make for a Sonic Unleashed remaster. Like these are changes that you are going that they need to include in order to bring it up to more modern standards, and frankly, just to polish the damn thing. Like even when I enjoyed it, I hated how the boost button was on the the homing attack button was on the goddamn boost button. Hated that so much. Like, why won't you just put that on the jump
Well, that's kind of what I
and the
come at this
QTEs?
for is like it's the most unforgiving of all of the games of this style. Like just immediately as soon as it moved on to colors and generations, like to in my mind, they immediately made significant improvements to just how the game flows.
Yeah, easily.
Like one of the biggest complaints I have about Unleashed above all else is Unleashed is a game that seems to revel in just immediately, quickly, and repeatedly killing the player. Like it's just it doesn't it feels bizarre that it is built around that, but it has so many levels that are built so firmly around that that it's like you want me to learn these levels inside and out, but you want to punish me in the harshest possible way for any minor failure. It just feels bizarre. It feels
But
like in the old NES games when you would have your testers help you balance. It's like the testers are the last people to help you balance because they're the people playing it 5,000 hours.
but in my mind, just take it, just make it more user friendly. But then also, like, I don't know, include an original mode or something for the
For the
for
perverts.
the statists. Did you see for the perverts?
Yeah, for the Sonic Unleashed perverts.
Okay, for the sadists, we'll say sadists. But
Yeah, for
anyway,
the
like, I'm really
perverts.
happy. I'm really happy that this exists. I'm looking forward to playing it on my Steam Deck. I have not had the time to put it on there yet, but I will make time eventually. Um, but like, it is pretty cool that this got made, especially since the guy who made it like said like a year ago that it was like gonna be next to impossible to, like, I think do a recompilation of the game because it was so complex. Like, it can't be done the same way as an N64 game, and then he
Yeah.
just proceed to quietly do it behind the scenes.
Well,
And
this is
release it a year later.
it's using something a little bit different. So a lot of what's happening in the N64
Well,
space
well,
is
the N6, the N6. This is based off of an N64 recompilation method, not the
yes.
Mario 64 decompilation method.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
what I mean.
yeah. So what we're talking about here is two different kind of paths of how to decompile code. The more traditional path that some of the early N64 games were going through was effectively, hey, you have to go through and look through the assembly code, kind of pick apart what is supposed to do what, and then convert that behavior into a more conventional language like C sharp or whatever. My
And
understand
at
my
the moment it works for x86.
right. Uh and this is, I believe, called static recompilation, and
Yeah.
the general idea is that it uses more automated tools to more directly convert the original binary into the original compiled binary into something that is in a more conventional language. And like there are some, I don't know, shortcomings. There are some complications that are associated with that. I know in older games, if you have ROMs that do do like, I believe it's called self rewrites, where the ROM, once it's loaded into memory, could rewrite parts of the code in order to basically run different methods that might need to execute. Generally speaking, I believe more modern games don't use that. But effectively, it's just sort of like a more automated process versus a more manual process, and it
Hmm.
might, my suspicions are it might make it a little bit harder to mod compared to a true decompilate.
Well, they did
Yeah,
release
true
this with a
decompilation.
new hedge mod manager, and they
Yeah,
already got mods running on it.
right. That isn't to say impossible. I'm just thinking like it might be slightly trickier depending on what you're doing. I believe one of our forum mods noted that right now it does not support code changes, so it might just be asset
Ah,
changes. But we'll have to see how that goes forward.
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe time will help resolve that, or maybe someone will take the code that has been recompiled here and turn it into something that is more akin to a more traditional decompile. Who knows?
So, Shigs, are you gonna check this thing out?
Maybe. It depends on how powerful my laptop is. How powerful does your computer need to be to
Are you
run
a
this
Well,
Steam?
it runs fine on Steam Deck.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a Steam Deck thing. People have already got it working on that, so
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay, I'll try it out then.
it's good.
How I just have to figure out how to get get to it on Steam Deck through the desktop area.
So moving on.
Screw. I will. And we'll end with this. Screw Unleashed, but it's good for preservation.
Yeah. Now we need someone to do a recompilation of Sonic 06.
That does need to happen, and I'm not saying that's because it's a good game. I'm saying it's because it's good for preservation.
And Black Knight.
Black Knight's
Apparently, somebody
pretty
somebody
good
did a,
already. Like Dolphin's
VR version
really
of Sonic
effective for
06.
that stuff.
Yeah, true, but recompilation would be better. Anyway, so moving on. Sonic Colors Ultimate coming to PlayStation Plus. So if you have that subscription service and you don't own the game, you can play it now, I guess. And this is the best place to play it, in my opinion. Like, especially if you own a PS5.
Yeah, I mean, my nephews are still borrowing my Switch copy, so I think this will end up being good for me.
Yeah.
That in.
And also, Sonic X Shadow Generations was the 10th best-selling game in the U.S. for January and the 5th best-selling on the Switch. So I believe this is like the first time where we've had like a Sonic game continue to chart well beyond the holiday season. Like I think even Sonic Frontiers dropped off after December, if I remember correctly. This one fell from 6th to 10th, meaning that this thing still got some legs. And it's kind of interesting that really the Switch is really the game that's still driving the sales here.
I mean, it generally has been.
Majority of the Sonic fans are Switch owners or Nintendo system owners.
The majority of video game players are Switch owners.
It's going to be real good once the Switch 2 comes out, because then the Switch owners can finally get like closer to definitive versions of these games.
I have repeatedly heard Switch 1 performance is on par with, I believe, an iPhone 6. I have heard from someone I talked to.
Interesting.
So
we got a new Funko Pop. It's a bitty Funko Pop that sticks Sonic in an arcade machine for some reason.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm not really interested in that because Sonic's never. Why are people putting out arcade versions of Sonic 1 that have never existed? Outside of maybe what is it, that Next Level Arcade out here in Hillsboro has a modded arcade system that's
do you want the answer
Sonic
to
the
that?
Hedgehog one.
Do you want the answer to that? Because I have an answer to that.
The answer is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, the answer is recognizable brand and affordable license. Like that.
And also recognizable iconography. In this case, an arcade machine.
Yeah. I will say one thing. I am guilty of buying another Sonic type Funko Pop recently, but I couldn't help it. It was a Treasure Hunter Knuckles, which comes with his anime cowboy cat and like a leather outfit and a whip. It looked kind of Indiana Jones look to him, and I just absolutely loved it. So I'm like,
and you've also confessed that you're going to be buying the Bitty Pop arcade for Tron.
Yeah, I am going to get the Tron one because that is an actual arcade system, not which Sonic is not. And I have played an actual arcade Fix-It Felix, which they have a Wreck-It Ralph version of that that's coming in these arcade biddies.
God help us.
I've actually played that one at Disneyland once, but Tron I'm not 100% on Wreck-It Ralph and definitely not on Sonic.
Well, it's not like you're short on Wreck-It Ralph merchandise. Finally, Whisper debuts in Sonic Speed Simulator. So, like, this is that
game that all of us play.
Yeah, the game that none of us play, but hey, it's always neat to see an IDW character pop up in it.
Not really. Like
it's neat for me, goddammit.
Look, the Sonic Speed Simulator is a games as service in the way that a lot of Roblox things are just gussied up and more manipulative phone games. Like, it's not surprising that eventually they would get there, because it seems like these characters are just turning into extended cast options for this stuff. Like if
Yeah.
we see Tangle and Whisper in as DLC characters in CrossWorlds, given that there's going to be some form of season pass or something, it would not surprise me at this point because they have
Yeah,
largely turned into like, hey, service game filler characters.
like that is of course something I've been speculating about for a couple of months now. The only real roadblock here would be like, hey, they need voice actors. But I wouldn't really
I don't
consider
think
that
that's
a
as
major
much of a voice
roadblock.
actor as it seems to be, but like I don't know if it's placeholder, the audio that you sent from me for Zaz, but it's something different and it's not
He
good.
definitely seems to have a new voice actor. I don't know. I thought he sounded fine, but then again, I'm
That's
not a
one thing I
Zaz
was
head
going to
like
say
you.
about. I forgot to say about Sonic Crossworlds. It's interesting that they're going to have all these different voice actors for this. It's highly more voice acted than I thought it was going to be.
I
So
suspect it's not going to be quite as voice acted as Team Sonic Racing was. Team Sonic Racing
oh,
has a stupid amount of voice acting.
there
Well, we
were
don't know yet.
apparently like some occasional like character interactions during the race. I think they were just text though in the closed beta. Like I never
Yeah.
noticed Cream saying anything, but she apparently did say something.
I'm not gonna
It's going
hold
to
it
depend.
against I'm not gonna hold it against them too much yet because I'm sure a lot of the stuff that they've done so far is just placeholder assets.
Yeah, like they have placeholder renders in the character select screen.
Now I'm
Um,
wondering now that they have voice actors for all the characters, including some new dialogue, and what they're going to do with these Sonic Prime ones. If they're just going to, reuse the modern tales and Sonic and that voice actors.
Just
I've got to imagine the easiest thing to do would be to just like have the game cast say the lines.
just use Microsoft. Like we all understand like the complaints about AI, but I'm going to suggest that we use Microsoft Sam as the voice of Jet. I think it's the better choice than any actual choice that they would make.
What? You don't want him to sound like this?
No, I don't want it to sound like this. I'm still no, not Ryan Drummond. Who am I thinking of? Who came after Ryan Drummond?
I don't know. I'm the Wing Master. Um.
Christ. Frickin' Jet.
Anyway,
People wonder why I hate him.
I we hate him purely because of his voice acting and nothing else.
Well, I also hate him because Sega seems to want to make him like a character when he is just Dan from Street Fighter. Like they want it's like wanting to seriously make you think that what if Dan from Street Fighter was cool? It's like, no! The point of Dan from Street Fighter is that he's not cool. He sucks.
I mean, I wouldn't really say he's cool in the IDW comics.
No, the IDW
anyway.
understood how to use him. They understood that he's Dan from Street Fighter and did so appropriately.
The voice actor is Michael Yurchik.
Okay.
Anyway, so moving on to mobile stuff. Sonic Rumble has gotten a delay to, at best, the mild surprise of myself personally, and probably no one else here.
No, there's I mean, it's a little bit surprising. It just feels like the pre-release period has gone on for longer than you would expect it to. It almost feels like it was announced a bit too early and went live a bit too early, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I gotta think that initially the plan was to have this thing release close to the movie, but then something happened to cause them to delay it. Like, maybe it just didn't get the attention that they wanted to. Maybe they're taking too longer than expected to build up the server stuff or the store, or I don't know. But regardless, it's been delayed to the spring, and it looks like it's going to officially launch with update 1.2. Which the next update is update 1.12, which is going to introduce a new quick play mode. Like I don't know, like it's nice to finally like get some kind of clarification. They were kind of running out of time to do that since winter ends in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still interested in it. I've been meaning to try to maybe check it out. There's some stuff in this roadmap that seems like quick play mode is neat, but also they are bringing it to Google Play Games on PC, which seems like it would be interesting. Uh
Probably as a way of getting those ads on a PC version.
Oh yeah, I bet. Like I already installed Google Play on PC in preparation for it just to maybe check it out whenever it comes, but yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
will say recently got a really good deal on a Logitech G Cloud because I'm starting to enjoy handheld gaming because after my arm thing, I started having to play a lot in the living room, and I'm starting to find it just chilling on in the living room and having either the PlayStation or Xbox games in the palm of my hands. I kind of like that. And since this is also an Android based thing, I could just download all my Android and Google Play accounts there. And since
Hmm.
Rumble's going to be available there, I think that's going to be how I primarily going to play that, since it does have joystick and button support.
If I can't get running on a Steam Deck, I'm probably just going to do it on my iPhone with my new Bone controller. Um,
but yeah,
but
it's
it's
weird.
also introducing skills for each character. Like one example they used specifically was Amy's hammer, and that is not something I was expecting them to do. And that's pretty neat, I think.
It kind of seems like it vaguely turns them into character classes, I guess, rather than just
Yeah.
which it
Mhm.
makes me wonder what they would do with the extensive like avatar building type stuff. Like, are they at an inherent disadvantage? Do they have their own abilities? Do you get to
Well,
assign
avatars
character like
already have
abilities?
like certain animations that are their own, so I'd imagine there's going to be some special ability that the avatars get,
Like
maybe connected to like a Wispon gun or something.
if it were me, I would have them be able to assign like styles in the way that you would like I don't know if you would say Mii's, if Mii's are a good comparison, but like have them borrow the skeleton and abilities and say, okay, my custom character is an Amy Rose character, so they will have a hammer whenever I need them to, or mine is a Sonic character and he does whatever a Sonic does, or something.
Hmm.
That would at least be my solution for
That
that.
Yeah, that would be neat, but I do think you're probably overestimating like how much customization is going to be possible with the avatars because like
I
all
am,
the
but
avatars are like pre-built. There is no
uh,
customization involved.
there's not. Oh,
Um,
that's unfortunate. That's like the one thing you would want out of the Avatar characters.
yeah, no, they're basically just like
They're separate characters. It sounds like they're just
yeah,
separate
like
characters.
yeah, that
That's weird.
that that just kind of like you win you just like win them in the claw machine thing, and there's like I don't know dozens of them or something. They don't really have the same status as the regular Sonic characters. Um, so yeah, so we got skills. It's coming in the spring. Um, and I think that's it in terms of Sonic Rumble.
Mhm.
Uh,
They just hit. Hey, they just hit the 600,000
oh
mark
yeah,
for their pre-registrations, which is fine.
only took them a month and a half.
Well,
I
to be clear, from the last 200,000 mark, not from the original pre-registration period.
and that is what it's that kind of makes me think that they probably may be delaying this in part because this is not getting the amount of attention that they want it to.
That's my biggest concern is
Mhm.
like most games you are not going to care about whether or not it has an audience for that. But for a game like this where it is built around being able to jump into a multiplayer session and having an audience that can make sure that it remains profitable and therefore continuous, that's kind of where I'm worried for this game. It's like if it's not getting the attention it needs, especially with its theatrical trailers alongside Sonic 3, it kind of makes me wonder like, okay, how much life is this thing going to have, knowing that Sega does not have a huge issue killing games that are underperforming?
Yeah. But I don't know. Like at the same time, they've also been adding a lot of content. The most recent update added 12 new stages and new 12 new languages and co-op battle and stuff.
Oh, sure.
And so and they've improved how the shop works and everything. So I don't know. It does feel like a much more complete game now. So it could also have just been a development thing.
It could be, but also I would have so saying this without the context of like I am not a game developer, I am not a game marketer, I am not a game businessman. But what I will say is for a game that you are putting on 3 separate platforms including PC that you are asking for pre-registration for, which pre-registration costs you nothing to commit to, and
Yep.
are seeming to make a rather expensive game, or at least a game with a lot of content to it.
Certainly
Uh,
more expensive than their mobile efforts.
I mean, this looks a hell of a lot more expensive than a lot of the other game. Like the most expensive thing I would say about the hard light games right now is just all the effort that they put into those skins for the specialty characters. Like
Yeah.
those are lavish, and I don't see the same effort being put into like they're not making a whole bunch of new levels. They're not making a whole bunch of new mechanics for it. They're kind of just rebalancing and cleaning up and shifting some of the mechanics they have and then making a bunch of skins for people to collect. This is like, okay, they're making a lot of content with a capital C. And if it's only getting 600 heavy air quotes pre-orders, I'm wondering if this has a life in it, because I would have hoped, like, in my mind, I would have wanted that million people by the time that we got to before the delay.
Certainly, by the end of February.
That would have been
Yeah.
my emotional hope, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, we've seen this with superstars. The games that seem to be hitting are the tentpole releases for Sonic. Your Sonic Frontiers, your Sonic X Shadow Generations, things that they can either make a big marketing deal about or have a massive tie-in with something else. But Superstars was a sales disappointment. We kind of don't know how some of the other games are doing because like like how would we know what Sonic Dream Team is doing? I guess it's doing
Yeah.
okay considering Apple had them do some updates, but not like massive updates. Well, I don't know. You'd know better than that than I would.
I mean, I would assume that Dream Team's doing well because it's been at the front and center of their Apple Arcade
Yeah.
subscription stuff for over a year now.
I guess where I'm going
That's
with this is I will be very interested in seeing how this does and how CrossWorlds does, because these are the spin-off games, and the things that we know are doing well are the tentpole releases. Like, will the rising tide carry all ships? I'm suspicious not. I'm suspicious. Yeah, I am suspicious that it's just not gonna hit in the same way that these other games are going to, and part of that might be a result of them going way too hard, way too frequent with their releases.
Yeah. Shigs, were you trying to say something?
No. Like I said, it's still concerning about pre-release, but there's a lot of games I ended up getting on mobile that I never pre-released. I mean, it takes zero effort. Also, it's not like you're getting any kind of bonus, right? Are they getting bonuses for
Yeah,
pre-release?
you get
Well,
bonuses for
you
pre-release.
get
Yeah,
a bonus if
Oh,
you. We're getting like a community bonus if everyone signs up and we get to certain amounts.
yeah.
So hit a million and we get the movie Sonic
But
skin.
but also like I'm thinking of that when I say that. Like if they hit 1 million for pre-release, that's good and would hopefully indicate like okay, but what if, and that might indicate like maybe 2 million after launch or something. Like
Hmm.
I'm taking that into my calculation that it might be more, but the question is, what are they expecting for this, given how much they are putting into it? Because this is a service game, and service games require continuous investment, and unless that investment is putting money back into it, then it's not going to be justified in keeping alive.
Yeah. Although I don't know. Hopefully they're satisfied with, I don't know, something like a
Like
$500,000. That's the number
Knuckles,
that
you
you get.
saw the Wikipedia page that I sent you. It's like
Oh yeah,
350 million
Sonic.
downloads of Sonic Dash.
Now that was like concurrent players.
No, it was downloads. It's not concurrent.
I,
You got to stop using the phrase concurrent players. That's not what
I
concurrent
could have
players
sworn
means.
I looked at that page more than once. Could have sworn that's what it said.
That's
All
not what
right,
concurrent players means, my dude.
downloads 350 million. Like I just know Pokemon Go wasn't even on there, and that was just confusing to me.
Yeah. But yeah, like I don't know what they're expecting from it. I'm hoping that this stuff is cheaper to make than it seems like they did, because let's remember, this is the frickin' first big project from Rovio under Sega. Like,
Yeah.
not a development project, but a project using the tools that Sega spent a lot of money on to purchase Rovio. So it's like, what are we going to be getting out of this? And I am not saying that I specifically want them to succeed at something that is extremely money grubbing, but I am saying, as someone who is curious about the business of being Sega, it makes me feel weird knowing that, like, oh, they just royally effed up in the way that they might have royally effed up with a lot of other mobile games. Let's not forget the way I harp on Sakura Wars.
Yep. So moving on to moving on, Sonic Dash recently got an update that uh, uh, improved some character animations, including Amy Rose, and it also added a mystery prize, which is this thing where you like click on boxes, watch an ad, or in my case, just let the ad play while I do something else, and then you get a little prize. Then once you open all of the boxes, you get a big prize, which apparently will let you like unlock a character or something. Um, but
Sounds like
but
blind box stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. Blind
And
box.
like for Sonic Forces, it's just a really useful way to like grind out rings
I don't need another way in
earn
that game to watch ads. Like,
and then
Yes,
earn some
please.
cards towards the new character. Uh, Again, like this is something you're only gonna do if you're like me. You can just like do something else while you're doing it.
I don't need,
But
I
yeah,
want
like
less ads, not more.
they're still supporting Sonic Dash with updates and stuff.
They are.
Like they didn't have to give the characters new animations, but they have.
It makes me wonder if the actual financial model for that game is more ad focused than people buying things focused. It wouldn't surprise me if it is primarily ad focused at this point.
Yeah. And also we've got, and finally for Mobile Corner, we've got some new characters coming: Ninja Espio and Unicorn Knight Cream, which I briefly thought that Ninja Espio might actually be like a Shinobi reference, but it looks like it's just I don't know. Like I can compare some stuff and just like I guess maybe the red scarf could be something, but beyond that, it's just a ninja. But it's weird having him cosplay as a ninja when he's already a ninja.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Like he already had kunai.
He's just extra ninja now.
Yeah, like
He's
now I guess he's
stereotype ninja SPO.
These
now
don't
he's like
do,
just dressing up like one.
these don't really do anything for me, but I was
Not even the cream one.
no, not really.
The
Those-
green one is.
Though she
especially
be but little, she is fierce.
Look, I got my fill of these two games. I don't like trying to tempt me with something like a skin isn't gonna do much for me. But I was using them as examples in discussion recently on another server of basically the difference between the cosmetics of Rumble versus where Hardlight puts its money and where Hardlight puts its efforts, and just the difference in what it's doing. Because what I've seen of the Rumble cosmetics and the fact that they are as expensive as they are makes it an even harder argument whenever it's like directly competing with something like Sonic Forces Speed Battle. Like Sonic Forces Speed Battle, these are lavishly designed skins. Like there's a lot of effort. They create not just the in-game models for them, but like these new full renders in brand new poses. And it's like, okay, there's thought and design put into these characters becoming this thing. They've had to create a lot of like original stuff where most of what I've seen of the Sonic Rumble stuff is like, okay, this Vector has headphones and a jacket, and here's Zavik, but he has this really ugly crystal filter put over him.
Yeah, that is like a really popular, not popular in terms of what they like to do, what the developers like to do. It's this thing on Sonic Rumble is just like take a character, then just like stick a texture on them.
Yeah,
Like
it just begs the question of like, okay, if you're gonna charge so much for these,
It's the same old Zavik, but he's got a new hat.
yeah, if you're gonna
not
charge so
even
much
that.
for these
Yeah.
cosmetics, if you're going to make the that aspect of it like so dang expensive, you gotta put more effort into it.
Although to be fair, like the specific ones that we're talking about are the most affordable ones to get. Like I could get Crystal Zavik.
Sure, but is there anything on par in that game that you've seen that's going to be on par with the design of the Inspector Vector or whatever it's called, the black and white version of him for the Forces
I
game?
wouldn't say anything's on par with Inspector Vector because that like has just a whole vibe to him and like he's got
Exactly,
the
but
whole searchlight and
that's my
stuff.
point.
But like there are some skins that I do rather like the look of, like like Treasure Hunter Nuts and Detective Tails and stuff like that. But like yeah, like by and large, so far the skins in Sonic Rumble have been just adaptations of the skins from other games or from stuff like that visual novel April Fool's game.
Yeah,
So like there hasn't really been anything original outside of like I guess there was Yarn Sonic.
which okay, maybe that's because they're holding back on things for a global release. Maybe.
We did forget to mention that they have recently confirmed that the stuff being released right now will come back after the global release. So yeah, like I got to imagine that they may be holding stuff back to debut for like the rest of the world.
But my bigger point is they are in some ways directly competing with themselves, and in that sense of the word, I'm not really seeing them step it up.
Mm.
Obviously, in game design, they are, and that part I
It's
appreciate
a
of
fun
it.
game.
But just thinking of like, okay, how do the economics of this game work? It just seems weird to me.
Yeah. Thankfully, the economics are getting gradually a bit better for me. Like the red rings are getting a little more gettable, but still not a place still not in a place I'm happy with. Anyway, so moving on. Sonic, we have the latest Sonic 3 box office numbers, and it has hit 486 million, making it the highest grossing Jim Carrey movie and the 10th highest grossing movie of 2024. And like at this point, yes, like Sonic 3 is a success. That's not especially big news at this point. It looks like it's not going to hit. It looks like it'll probably fall short of the 500,000, which was kind of the last milestone that I was looking at.
The
But
500,000?
Oh, sorry, 500 million.
Okay, I thought that's what you
brain
meant,
fart.
but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Sonic 3 has made $500,000.
They've made 500,000. Not they did not make enough to cover Jim Carrey's paycheck, but it's somehow his biggest performing movie.
Sorry, y'all. I've been reporting these numbers incorrectly for the past 3 months. Anyway,
No, $500 million. $500 million.
but like, yeah. But regardless whether or not it hits $500 million, it's a success, and that apparently has meant good things for the spin-offs, because from Daniel Richtman, we have a rumor that the success has caused Paramount to greenlight the Sonic spin-offs that have been getting rumored for the past year, which one thing that he specifically mentions is the off-rumored Shadow spin-off, which, if you may remember, apparently if Sonic 3 did well enough, the Shadow spin-off that's been getting discussed would be a movie instead of a show. And another rumored spin-off was a second season of the Knuckles series featuring the Chaotix.
That would be awesome. Well,
So,
not necessarily.
Yeah, because you guys really love that Knuckles series.
Yeah.
You guys really love that Knuckles series. I'm glad
to
to hear you're so excited for it.
I mean, look.
I'm excited for Chaotix, not so much the Knuckles stuff.
Look, you know me, GX.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
you're a
willing to
freaking
give it
stand.
another chance if the Chaotix are involved. Like, what if, I don't know, Adam Pally joins the Chaotix and, like, he becomes an honorary member, and then that
He wears
gets,
a
like,
bee suit the
adapted.
entire time.
Like, it's this really, really cringy detective show. Oh, God.
I'm being sold on it. You're selling me on it, yeah.
And he's just doing this really bad noir detective narration.
I'd be disappointed if he didn't.
And there's an episode that's just purely black and white.
Look, make
like,
anything that you keep Fowler away from, and I'll watch it. So,
but like, I don't know. Like, I would be willing to at least give it another chance with the Chaotix, but I am interested in just their spin-off plans in general, and I'm wondering if any of this stuff is going to be hitting before Sonic 4 does.
it's hard to say. What year? We already got a general window for Sonic 4, didn't we?
It's like March 19th, 2027.
Yeah. So
one of my nephews. It's on one of my nephew's birthdays on the 2027th, and he's gonna be a little camper because his favorite things right now, thanks to me, are Godzilla and Sonic. It's both of those
I remember when
are coming out a week of each other. All right. If you don't mind, I want to just get this wrapped up. I do need to eat.
Well, yeah, we're on the final two discussion topics. We just got a solicitation for DC X Sonic issue 3. The Justice League is gone. Who will protect the Earth and beyond from the myriad of supervillains on the prowl? Sonic the Hedgehog and his friends to pick up the slack. Watch as Sega's iconic characters don the costumes of DC's finest and take on their greatest foes. And we finally have context for why they're dressed like DC superheroes, I guess.
I will have opinions on this when I see a comic.
I gotta say though, they're upping their villain game. I mean, they're going from a kooky mad scientist to Dr. Robotnik to freaking Darkseid.
I just know that there's now a serious chance that Shadow's going to be fighting Batman's Rogues Gallery, and like I'm curious how what they're going to do with that. Like I guess I'm probably putting too much thought into this, thinking that they're going to have each of the characters have a brief encounter with their subsequent heroes' Rogues Gallery, because
I think you're putting too much time into it. Yeah, you're too much thought into it. Yes.
Then, I guess Sonic would either be fighting the Reverse Flash or Cat and Cole or something.
That would be the stupidest fight of Sonic versus Reverse Flash. What even is that? What? Pardon?
He's Flash, but he's evil.
Oh no,
That's
Flash
the
is
reverse
gone.
thought.
Let's have Sonic fight Evil Flash. What? What is this stupid fight?
It's probably going to be on the lines of that recent Ultraman and the Avengers storyline, or the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, where it's just for fun. It's not too serious.
Probably like
It's just getting
like
your
let's be honest. Shadow would never dress up as anything, let alone Batman. He's not that fun.
Hey, we've just talked about a whole bunch of mobile games where he dresses up as everything.
True, but those don't have to worry about a storyline. And the final big news item of the night, which I'm hoping that we'll have more to say about this one, because it kind of confirms something that I guess we've been wondering about / suspecting for a while, which is the reason why IDW still only has one monthly Sonic book, despite the fact that Sonic has been one of their top sellers for years. And it comes down to SEGA not having enough manpower to review more comic books, which
a problem that Archie didn't have that now we got to deal with in the IDW.
Yep, and
on one hand, yes. On the other hand, I don't like. Okay, I get it. I get the desire to actually have a little bit more control over it whenever compared to the unfettered access that Archie had to just make up whatever.
Yeah, on the other side was zero control. You just got to have something in between that.
Let me just say, SEGA did exercise control with Archie, but it wasn't Sonic Team that did it. It was SEGA of America licensing.
Yes.
And like they simply had a list of rules to follow. They did not need a lore master to confirm that everything was like canon kosher with the games, because these weren't canon with the games. It didn't matter. Like none of this stuff would affect anything Sonic Team's doing. Whereas, like here, this is a direct consequence of these things being canon to Sonic Team's games. Sonic Team is going to want to know what is being done and want to make sure everything is matching their vision, whatever it happens to be at the time, and making sure that everything that IDW does is something that they can use in the games if they want to. And
you get a Fang the Hunter miniseries where it completely interrupts the rest of the comic for 4 months.
Yeah, like we now know why that happened. We also probably know why. This is probably why the IDW comic books get delayed as much as they do, because
Godzilla can have like a half dozen titles in 1 month without any issue. Because plus he's just a big old monster, so you don't.
And it's like, you know what? Godzilla has lots of rules and mandates too, but I've got to imagine that Toei just has a list that someone goes over. It doesn't according to Stanley, basically only reviewing the comics requires specialized knowledge that only a handful of people currently have, and they're needed on many projects, including games which take priority. And it's like, I don't know why you wouldn't just have someone specialized in going over the comic book stuff specifically. That would seem to solve this logistically. Unless SEGA, I guess, just doesn't want to spend the money.
I mean, that would be my first thing. Like, look at everything that's happening in the industry right now, and the ways in which a lot of places don't want to spend money on things that aren't AI.
But I don't know, I feel like there's gotta be a middle ground between having to translate a script into Japanese and have Sonic Team review it directly versus a looser hand where Sonic Team can just check in every now and then, make sure everything is running well, and seeing what they can take and use in their games. There's gotta be a middle ground between Archie and this. But because this is kind of frustrating, if I'm being honest. And really kind of indicative of what I have long said is one of IDW's problems, which is that it feels like it's often just a little too constrained.
I suppose like it could stand like for me the pacing that I would want from a story is akin to what they did for the recent Sonic Riders adjacent thing, where it's like, yeah, we have a sense of what the beginning of this, we have a sense of what the end of this, we have an understanding of like, okay, this has this set of consequences, and then we go through all of that. We have that impact the next running arc, and then we
Yeah.
continue through that. Like that's what I'm looking for in it. Sometimes it doesn't always feel like that, and I think a big part of that isn't even just the main comic series on its own. Like obviously at the beginning I had those criticisms, but like the biggest one is all the damn special issues. Like that's the stuff for me that stretches out the pacing, that it's like I don't have time and energy to deal with this. This is just a bunch of filler stories that are maybe sometimes interesting.
Well, the good news is you can ignore that stuff if you want to. Like I'm not gonna, but you could. But I guess like when it interferes with the pacing, with the actual like release schedule of the comic book,
That's what I'm
then
talking
that
about,
can become
yes.
an issue. Um, has that happened? Because I know it happened with Fang, but has it happened with the one shots?
Fang is the most significant that I recall. Is it doing anything to the Shadow
Uh,
miniseries on the main
I don't.
series?
I don't think so. I believe that the Shadow one shots dropping around the same time as the like I said, within a couple of weeks of the next issue 79 or 77,
Yeah,
which we just got the first preview for.
I suppose. I
Um,
don't know. It
but anyway, like I am happy with the latest arc of that they did. Uh, so I don't know. Like Stanley does say that hey, like this could change in the future if they get more people to handle this stuff, and hopefully that like they have been building a lore team for the last few years, so hopefully that will kind of get things going.
hopefully IDW will stay in business.
Yeah, that too. Although on that
Yeah.
front, um, Stanley did comment on that. She said that the comics are a very volatile business. IDW is not unique in that regard. Sonic kept Archie afloat for a decade. If IDW were to get into such dire straits, which they are not, Sonic and TMNT would be the last things to go. Due to the Sonic series' large, dedicated, multi-generational fan base, the comics are super consistent sellers. This is basically unheard of in Western comics and makes the Sonic books very valuable.
Sure. Oh, I
So,
believe that, but my thought process is more like IDW goes out of business. Like that's my thought process. Is not like, oh, we got to start dropping comics. No, it's more like, do they exist as an entity? Now, that
hmm,
said, like, hey, if they go out of business, I could at least think of some other studios that would probably be very happy to pick it up from where it left
yeah,
off. And with like one of the benefits of Sega continuing to look over this is, unlike Archie, which you really could not reasonably transfer from one publisher to another, the comics right now, and between Sega's ownership and Sega's oversight, puts them in a very transferable position.
I've got to think
Very
that
true.
depending on how, yeah,
I said very true.
I've got to think that depending on how the comics are allowed to end, they could very well like just kind of when they go, if they have to go over to another publisher, do like a time skip, and it's like, oh yeah, now we're after Frontiers, like
I mean, they're going to have to
but
eventually.
like but beyond that, like I do expect they're probably going to keep things consistent because they've spent the past half decade setting that stuff up, more than half decade now at this point.
Cool.
Um,
Shakes, do you
so
want to bow out for the closing?
yeah,
No, I got a few minutes.
Okay.
all right. So, anyone have any final thoughts?
My final thought is, hey, our opinions are our own, but Sonic Talk in general is right now under the banner of Sonic Stadium over at sonicstadium.org. It's one of the world's longest running Sonic fan communities. We have got news over on the site. We have got plenty of coverage of Sonic CrossWorlds racing. I used those words in the incorrect order. We got plenty of Rumble stuff. And of course, hey, we've got more episodes of this podcast over there and on YouTube. Once again, that's sonicstadium.org. You can also search Sonic Stadium on YouTube, Sonic Stadium on Blue Sky or other social media platforms, and Sonic Stadium on Twitch, which you might be listening to right now, or on YouTube, but both of them are applicable. Hey, I'm moving towards getting things running with more video content and streaming content. It takes a while, and I'm having to split my attention between that and some very, very important personal stuff, but we're making positive directional moves.
I'll just say, hey, go and go and read my Sonic Racing CrossWorlds preview on Sonic Stadium.
Yep. With that, peace off.
Shigs,
Oh.
anything?
No, they can also read my opinion in our Sonic CrossWorlds Roundtable article that we did last
Yep,
week.
there's
as well.
also that. Anyway, with that, we're done.
Cool. Peace.
Catch you later.